Greetings and salutations. I'm the fallen angel Christopher Daniels.
Hello, yes, Danhausen here, to tell you, deliver a very nice, very evil message, if you will.
This is NXT superstar Dexter Lumis.
What's up, everybody? It's me, your buddy, your pal, Scott Stanford.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
This is the former intellectual savior of the masses, now known as Aaron Stevens, your NWA third-degree national champion.
This is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the role model, and you are listening to Greg Morgan with Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I want to tell you, Greg, your buddy Howie, also known as Wheezy, as you call him, he told me all about your channel. I'm here to tell everybody that I've seen it, I've watched it, I've looked at it. I went down the rabbit hole and I couldn't get out of it. It was so good.
Yeah, you better watch this channel. You better watch all the videos.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
Watch them 5 times a piece. That's right, I said 5 times a piece. Do it.
I know you've been a fan for like 40 years. I've only been doing it for 30, so I guess we're fans together there for 10 of it.
Do it.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Do it.
Good Mic Work is the place to be for all your wrestling information, guaranteed.
The best wrestling content is right here at Good Mic Work Commentary.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
Subscribe, share, love, like, poke, whatever you need to do.
If you don't, we're gonna have a problem.
Love that, Danhausen. Love that Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Do it now. You're welcome.
It is 2021, and you know what that means. The hell that is 2020 is finally in the rearview mirror. Happy New Year, every single one of you. Welcome to the Winged Eagle Podcast, if I can even say the name of my own goddamn show correctly. The first one of 2021. I hope everybody had an excellent holiday season. We are now here finally, January 2nd, 2021. We are off and running on this new year, which can't be any worse. I do agree with most people who kind of laugh at people that say, oh, I can't wait to get 2020 behind us, because I don't think 2021 is going to be that much better, but it certainly can't be any worse. So at least it feels good to be away from that terrible year and a brand new start. A new start for a lot of us, a new strain of COVID, a new president coming up in a couple of weeks. A lot of news this year, but then again, there might be a lot of the same old shit as well. But let's be optimistic. Let's stay positive, and let's hope that 2021 turns out to be a hell of a lot better than last year. And I'm just glad we're here. I'm glad we made it on the other side of it. We might look a little tore back, a little weathered, a little busted up from the year, or from the beating that 2020 put on us, but we're all here. We're all alive, and we're here to chat some wrestling today. Should be a pretty fun episode, because we've got a lot to get into, and we also have a lot to preview. We've got a huge 3 days of wrestling coming up starting tomorrow night with Wrestle Kingdom, and then WWE's Legends Raw coming in between the two nights of Wrestle Kingdom. So it's going to be a jam-packed 72 hours, at least for me. I'm going to be watching a lot of wrestling, doing a lot of live tweeting, shit like that. So feel free to join along over on Twitter. Make sure you follow me. I'll be up here Monday night after Raw to do a review on the Legends Raw and WWE, the WWE title defense of Drew McIntyre against Keith Lee. We'll be up here to talk about all that, and I'm sure we'll discuss a little bit of night one of Wrestle Kingdom as well, prior to, just a couple hours before night two kicks off. So we'll preview a little bit of that, run down, some of the things that are going to happen on Wrestle Kingdom. Not all of it. Not going to pull up the full card or anything, but a couple things that I am interested in. And we'll give a big preview to Monday's Raw as well. In terms of what we're going to get into in this episode and what's on the menu, we've just got through a holiday season the last couple of weeks, and news has been light. So there's not going to be too much wrestling news to get into, other than the reports of several WWE wrestlers turning down contract renewals. I'm also going to give some opinions on the Bruce Mitchell situation at the Pro Wrestling Torch that a lot of people asked my opinion on. Never really got a chance around to talk to it. Not ever got a chance to talk to it, and never got around to it really. But based on everything that happened in the past week, and and some of the things he said in relation to John Huber and his family and things like that, a lot of people wanted my opinion, so I'll go ahead and give you that as well in the news portion of this. We're going to get into AEW's Dynamite from this past week, which, again, never got a chance to talk about. I was up here for my year-end video on Monday, and I haven't been up here since. So we'll talk a little bit about Wednesday's show for AEW, and out of respect for Brodie Lee and for John Huber, we're pretty much going to leave it at AEW. I really didn't take a look at NXT this week, read the results, watched about 3 clips on YouTube. That was it. I couldn't focus my mind on it. You know, I don't even know how to explain it. We're in the middle of the build to New Year's Evil. Got another week or so before that gets here. We had another week, and we knew the matches, and based on the results and everything, looked like a fine show, but that's not where my mind was. My mind was preoccupied with the death of Brodie Lee and seeing how they were going to be able to tribute him on AEW. WWE has also done some nice things with some graphics and I think even a video package on NXT or Smackdown. They've got a really nice YouTube video up with a lot of the wrestlers sharing their thoughts and feelings and tributes and memories of Luke Harper or Brodie Lee, and that was really nice. But, AEW is where he worked, so that's where our eyeballs were going to be in terms of, how they were going to tribute him and, deal with the family and all of that stuff. So we're going to get into detail on the matches there and some of the things we saw on Wednesday night, which was really nice, and we'll wrap things up, put a nice little bow on it with what happened last night on SmackDown. Again, not a crazy show or anything like that. 2 weeks in a row, SmackDown has had to fall on a holiday, but they still gave us a semi-solid show with a pretty good finish in the closing segment there, and we had a return of a long-lost superstar that came back on SmackDown as well that many weren't quite expecting back yet. So that's pretty much it. Other than that, we'll hang out, I'll answer questions, we'll shoot the shit, we'll talk, and then I'll be up here, like I said, in 48 hours for the Raw review. Let me cruise over here and say hello to everybody. Those who are here, about 100 of you so far, if you can do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button for me. I want to try to get some good likes in 2021. They were way down in 2020, drastically from 2019. I don't know what the hell's going on there. So let's start 2021 off with a good beginning here, and please smash that thumbs up on this video because likes really help, traction and get your videos featured around YouTube, things like that. It really, really does help the channel, and it's completely free. So please hook me up with a like. I'd appreciate it. I also got a couple of shout outs to give here and a little video schedule for January that I want to mention as well. And I want to just touch on Monday's year-end Q&A real quick as well. But first of all, let me cruise over here and make sure there's no super chats I have to answer. Yeah, there are 2 right away. One from George Morris. Appreciate the $5, dude. Hey, Greg, Happy New Year. All 3 seasons of Cobra Kai have been better than WWE has been in the last 20 years. What did you think of the Chop Shop fight? I don't want to bore our audience with Cobra Kai talk because they know I'm a big fan of the show. It's the only television show I watch. I don't watch anything, like literally nothing. So, but I've always said, for those of you who've been following me many years, the Karate Kid movies were probably as influential to my life as wrestling was, in terms of, what I took from them and how that's my favorite movie, the Karate Kid. So when the Cobra Kai series came out, I was extremely interested to see how they tied in the movie, and it's been probably one of the best produced shows I've ever seen, especially how true it stays to everything in the movie and the backstories and the character development and, how much meat there is on that Karate Kid bone. It's amazing. So the Cobra Kai seasons have been great. We've been waiting 1.5 years, nearly 2 years for season 3 because of the COVID delay. It's finally out. I watched all 10 episodes on New Year's Eve on January 1st at midnight. I clicked on Netflix and watched all 10 episodes right in a row, and it was fantastic. I love the Chop Shop fight. I was looking forward to that the first time Johnny and Daniel got a chance to kick ass together, and I'm not going to get into any more details about the show or spoilers. I'm only going to say 2 things about it. Number 1, I was thrilled to find out that Okinawa has a Jersey Mike's. I think that's great. And number 2, when it comes to all those 10 episodes, George, there's great moments for people, fans of the movie and stuff. A lot of, callbacks to the movie, subtle little references that only people who've watched the movies 100 times would get. I loved all of those, and they really just brought a tear to my eye. But there was one moment in the show that really got me, and it's completely irrelevant to the story. It's just random, and I didn't expect to be hit in the face with it like that. And it was in episode 5 at the very end when he's leaving Okinawa. He's already had his training sessions with Chosen. He's reunited with Kumiko, all that stuff. And as he's leaving to meet up with her to say goodbye, there's a woman standing with her. And you're like, you didn't know who it was? I'm like, who the hell is that? And he talks to her for a minute, and he goes, is this your friend? And she goes, oh, no, you've met her. And as soon as they said that, my mind immediately went to part 2. I'm like, that's the girl from the ladder. And they go to a smash cut of the movie where Daniel is saving her from the ladder when she's ringing the bell during the storm, carrying her down. That was her. I paused it. I stood up. I mean, I literally lost my shit. Very emotional, like 35 years later. And of course, they tied it in where she happens to work for the big company that's going to save his company. And, everything comes full circle. I've been a big proponent on this channel. You guys have heard me say it for years. What goes around comes around. Really good example of that. Daniel saved this girl's life when she was about 5 years old. And she grows up to be a big executive of a company that winds up saving his dealership. So very cool little tie in there. And that was probably the most emotional part of all 10 seasons for me. I know it's random, but it was. Anyway, I'll shut up about Cobra Kai. And thank you, George, for the $5. Divine Ricks, thank you for the 5 as well. Hey, Greg, I'm just starting to watch Cobra Kai. I absolutely love it. Thanks to you. I'm glad I have tuned you into it. Like I said, it's even for people who didn't like the movies, you should be able to watch this and be entertained by it. But it's even more special for people that I saw Karate Kid in the theater. So I saw that movie 100 times growing up. It taught me how to deal with bullies in a lot of ways. I still use a lot of Mr. Miyagi's wisdom to this day. Man who worked for passion, richer than man who worked for money. I believe in all that stuff. So those are really important to me, and I'm loving the show, and I think we're going to get at least 6 seasons out of that, and I'm stoked. But yeah, excellent season, great cliffhanger, the whole deal. I'm ready for season 4 already. Michael Cuomo, good to see you as well, dude. Appreciate the $2. Yo, Greg, take a break from Cobra Kai to watch. Okay, maybe we do have a few Cobra Kai fans in here, man. I'm not sure what episode you're on, Michael, but my God, once you get into that, that 5th one, and he's in Okinawa, and him and Chosen and the whole deal, and oh my God, I was pissing my pants through a lot of that stuff. And Jordan Smith, thank you, dude. I appreciate the 10 as well. Happy 2021. Cobra Kai was awesome. I'm so glad we have all these Cobra Kai fans. Allie still looks good. She does. Elizabeth Shue. We knew she'd be in there. I was surprised she came in the way she did. I thought she'd be used a little bit differently, but the way she was used was a perfect catalyst to kind of end and put a nice little cap on that whole story and get Johnny and Daniel together and put all that behind him. And the revelation that she didn't fucking crash his car in part 2, which I knew she didn't, seemed very out of character for Allie. To fall in love with a football player from UCLA and crash Mr. Miyagi's car. I knew there was something up with that. So we got that story. That was cool. AEW Tribute Show was emotional. Will anyone show up on the Legend Show that wasn't already advertised? I would hope so, because the advertised legends that they have are just your run-of-the-mill legends. Yes, Hogan and Flair are there, and I think that we shouldn't discount the significance of that, because let's be honest with ourselves, in your heart of hearts, how many more times are we going to see these two guys in the same place at the same time? I'm surprised it's 2021 and we're still seeing this. So every time they're in the ring together, my mind is going to say that could be the last time. So that's a possibility. Hogan and Flair there, pretty much make, any Legends gathering already credible. But it's random ones. They got Carlito coming back in, Alicia Fox, and IRS makes sense. And, and some of those guys have worked there in and out and agents and stuff. But I don't know what they're planning to do. I referenced when they made this announcement about The Undertaker's 30th retirement. I'm like, they brought all those guys out. They do jack shit. So what's the point of them being there? Come out to the ring, wave, and then go away? So it's probably going to be filled with backstage segments where them and I don't know, fucking New Day are doing some crazy shit. I'm sure the Miz and Morrison will be humiliated by some legends or something like that, and potentially, and I mentioned, if we are going to see the return of the Fiend tomorrow, or I'm sorry, on Monday, excuse me, I'd love for him to attack his dad. IRS in the ring, and maybe with a couple of other legends, and the lights go out and the brand new Fiend returns. I still think when the new Fiend comes, Randy Orton needs to be the first one to see him. So maybe he appears earlier on in the show and then shows up later and attacks IRS and Hillbilly Jim or some shit. Might be just a fun thing to do since it is Legends Raw, but in terms of anybody else not showing up, I think it's possible, or anybody else showing up who's not advertised, I think it's possible, but I'm not expecting to see any crazy name unless it turned out to be, like a Goldberg or something. But, I think Goldberg might be more, for SmackDown. So I don't know. Time will tell, I suppose. And we'll have to wait and see. All right, that knocks it out for the super duper chats. I also want to shout out the Patreon supporters real quick, Patreon supporters real quick, and then let you guys know about a couple of videos I have planned for January. I want to shout out current supporters on Patreon: Jay Smooth 1999, Martin Can, Alex Dredge, Apron Bump Podcast, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Michael Tong, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Wide, Devlin Husband, Antoine Daniels, who was one of the winners of the t-shirt, the Brodie Lee t-shirt on Monday, and he has a Patreon sponsored review coming up this month as well. So Antoine's busy. John Redifer, Claudio Clavedetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Barry MK400, who also has got a Patreon sponsored review in the works, Josiah Blevins, Mr. Steve, Scott Moss, John Riffle, Michael Cuomo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, Blake Moran, Nathan Walker. Thanks to every one of you for your long time support on this channel. You guys are a big help. You have no idea. Like I said a minute ago, Antoine was one of the winners of the Brodie Lee t-shirts that I gave away on Monday. The other one was Deshaun Robinson. I appreciate everybody's participation on Monday night in terms of the donations to support Brodie Lee's family. Still waiting to see if any sort of financial fund for the family directly is going to come up that we can donate to. We're going to wait and see. If not, that money is going to go to the American Lung Association. And thank you to everybody that participated. It was a really fun night on Monday night. We were streaming for about 4 hours. We talked about a lot of stuff. Of course, we talked in detail about the death of Brodie Lee. We also reviewed Monday Night Raw, and I answered a ton of questions from email and chat, and it was a really fun hangout, and I thought it was a perfect way to close out 2020. So I appreciate everybody that hung out, participated, donated, whatever. It was a blast. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. And in terms of, and I've already gotten up with, it was so easy too. I was so happy when Antoine and Deshaun won, because I happen to know both of their information. They're on Twitter. So it was like, okay, cool. It's going to be easy to find them. I don't have to make an announcement on the podcast and wait for them to hear it and get back to me or whatever. I knew who they were. So that really helped get that going quicker so I can get those t-shirts out to them. So congratulations, guys, on winning those. And thanks to everyone for participating. Like I said, I've got a couple of Royal Rumble reviews. I have chosen them, but I'm not going to let you know which ones they are. I put up a YouTube post a few days back asking, maybe over a week now, asking for recommendations on Royal Rumble reviews, and I got a ton of feedback on it. And based on all of the answers and stuff, I think I know which two I'm going to go to. So I'm going to those are going to be in production starting like tonight, because I got a lot of stuff to do for the month of January, and it's going to be tight. So keep a lookout for some Royal Rumble reviews coming up prior to January 31st, because luckily we have until the end of the month until the Royal Rumble. So I got to wait a while to get these done, but I'm going to try to get one to you next week at least. And in terms of that, that's pretty much it. A couple of Patreon reviews and 2 Royal Rumble reviews are all on tap between now and, hopefully the end of the month without having to bump one or anything like that. And we should be, and then it's into WrestleMania season. And holy shit, then we got Chamber and Fastlane and all this nonsense coming up, and then it's WrestleMania season, and it gets even more crazy. So it is going to be a crazy beginning of our first quarter, I guess, of 2021. Should be fun. Hope you guys can stick with us. All right, that's it for the pleasantries. I'll shut my trap. We can start getting into actual business here. I've kind of got a dying battery on my mouse. Do you ever get that? Doesn't that piss you off? It's like it's not dead, but it's doing some stuff. But I've already started streaming now, so I don't have time to change the battery. Now I got a couple other super chats to knock out before we get into the news. I think that's what we're going to do first. I want to talk a little bit about the WWE contract situation and a couple of things there, and then we'll get into Wednesday night. We'll talk a little bit about the Dynamite and a few of the really nice and cool and emotional things that AEW did for Brodie Lee and his family. Very, very big night. The wrestling world was pretty much glued to the TVs watching that. It was pretty crazy. So we'll be getting into all that here in just a sec. There's Devlin Husband. What's up? Only seen the first Karate Kid. Should I watch the second and third before I start Cobra Kai? Yeah, you don't necessarily have to. You need to watch the second one soon, though. Maybe not after season 1. Season 1 pretty much focuses on the first movie. And then after that, and they just got into, and the season 3 enemies are going to come into season 4. The part 3 episodes are going to come into season 4. I will say this about the third Karate Kid movie. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I thought the movie sucked. Ralph Macchio was I think in his mid-30s, and he was playing a 17-year-old. It didn't look right. As a matter of fact, Terry Silver in the movie, in real life, is 3 months younger than Daniel, and he played like a grown man. So it didn't look very right. I didn't like the enemy. I thought it was... I didn't like that they returned to the tournament. I didn't like the tension between Miyagi and Daniel. The whole movie was just not good. I did like the final sequence. I thought it was, the one good thing about these movies is the scores. The music and all this are just fantastic. Some of the best scores and themes in any movie, and all 3 of these Karate Kids. And the ending sequence where he katas his way into the victory is a very cool visual and sounds good. And Mr. Miyagi yelling at him, to overcome his fears and shit like that. I liked the finish, I suppose, of the movie, but I didn't like anything really leading up to it. It kind of sucked. But Mike Barnes and Terry Silver will be making their way into Cobra Kai. I have no doubt they pretty much left that as the cliffhanger. So they'll probably be around at some point. So you need to watch them all, but I think you can start with part 1, And like I said, I'm glad you're watching them, but you can probably watch Cobra Kai without the movies and still at least enjoy it. But for hardcore fans, people who can recite the movie from start to finish, there's just an endless amount of Easter eggs that you pick up on that nobody else will be able to get. And I think that's why I like the show more, because I know I'm one of a very small portion of people that understands everything. And I think that's kind of why I like it. Divine Ricks, appreciate 5 more from you as well. Hey, Greg, what wrestling company do you think had the better year in 2020, AEW or WWE? AEW. I mean, I know, like, better year if you're just judging them by numbers, you know, then of course WWE blew them away. But in terms of, like, WWE went down, well, actually that's not true either. You know, they even had, you know, their profits, you know, grew. You know, they made more money in COVID than prior to that. But in terms of fan interest, reputation, ratings, it seems like all of that there's nothing moving upward for WWE in that department. Where in AEW, you know, those poor bastards started out, and then 3 months later COVID hit, and they never really even got a chance to really build momentum, but they've still survived very well. They're still drawing respectable ratings despite not having no audience and being new and not being able to have an audience there for the past year to really help that company grow and build momentum and stuff. Wrestlers still want to go there. Apparently it's a very nice place to work. What they did for Brodie Lee, I think, you know, all fans appreciate, even if you're one of those irrational, I just hate AEW for no fucking reason people. Even they, I think, were appreciative of what they did for Brodie Lee. And it's good to have that. You know, it's good to have somebody that actually cares. It's good to have somebody with money that actually cares about wrestling instead of just some big business or some, you know, media conglomerate buying it when they don't give a shit. Once Ted Turner got out of the CNN game and the Time Warner merger and all of that, WCW became trash to them. They wanted nothing to do with it. So, you know, at least with the Khans, you have somebody like Tony. Love him or hate him, I don't give a shit. But the guy likes wrestling and he cares about wrestling. And for me, that's what you would want. We've talked about this for years on the channel prior to WWE having any competition. Do you think anybody can start? I used to get this question all the time in Q&As. Do you think another company could come around? And I was always like, it's got to be somebody with a lot of money who loves wrestling. I always mentioned, what's his fucking name? The Dallas Mavericks owner. Why can't I think of his name? Mark Cuban. You know, somebody like that. I'm like, you know, who just has the crazy expendable income, you know, who's going to be okay with losses, who's going to be okay with losing money up front in order to, you know, build a company, and is going to have like unlimited assets and resources, and just wants to do it and loves wrestling enough to use these assets and resources. And I think we've pretty much found that in the Khans, especially with Tony. We needed somebody who was a wrestling fan and has a lot of money. That's what he has. And so for fans to like kind of poke fun at him or nitpick at, oh, he's just stupid or this or that, I'm like, he is a wrestling. This is what you fucking want. You know, like, you don't want some asshole businessman. You know, you don't want Disney or something like that buying a company like this, like they're probably going to do to WWE, you know, because then, you know, once it starts, you know, going downhill or things start going sour, they just dump it, you know, just like WCW did or whatever. They decide it's not worth it, or they can't afford it, or they, you know, or whatever, you know, whatever business reasons you use, you know, when you have somebody that, you know, it's kind of their own money, it's their own baby, it's their own vision, that is better. Is Tony Khan Vince McMahon? Fuck no. But he's a hell of a lot better than just, you know, some invisible entity owning a company, where that's where the problem in WCW. Yeah, you might have an executive producer or a president or something like that, but that's always a revolving door. Nobody is in charge. You know, nobody's going to replace Tony Khan. You know, nobody's going to replace Vince McMahon. That's not always a good thing, you know, but it gives you that stability in your company that WCW never had, with that constant revolving door of not only ownership, but leadership. And that's something that WWE really hasn't had to worry about. Yeah, they've had a few, you know, they've had a lot of writers come and go, and a few bookers, you know, like, and creative team members, like, you know, the Jerry Jarretts and the Bill Watts and things like that. But, you know, in terms of their, you know, structure, they're strong. And I think AEW has a chance to build something similar as they go. And Tony Khan will learn and grow as well. You know, he's a brain, you know, was Vince the smartest dude in the world in 1974? Fuck no. He's an idiot. So it takes time. And I think we should give them a chance to do that. So in terms of how they grew and the strides they made, as in comparison to WWE, I think they made greater strides for their universe than WWE did in theirs. You know, it's kind of like a handicap in bowling or a handicap in golf or something like that. I'm giving AEW a handicap here, but I think they perform better than WWE has, because WWE clearly has had far better years. They've had far better ratings than this, and the only thing that was really up for them was their profits, which the stockholders, I'm sure, are thrilled about, but the fans suffer greatly. So part of WWE's failures could be a part of AEW's success as well. You know, that's very possible. So sick of WWE, I'll watch anything else except them. It might be the mindset of a lot of fans. So I think AEW had a great year despite the pandemic. They hung in there, man, big time. Oh, man. All right. I got a few more supers to answer, and then I'll get into the news. Thank you, Guardians of the Chaos, as well, for the $5. Greg, first time, long time here on the channel. Just subbed to you on Twitter. Happy New Year, Big Daddy GOC. Well, thank you for that, Guardians of Chaos. Appreciate you being here, and thanks for the sub on the Twitter. Appreciate that. Go follow me at Good Mic Work. There's Deshaun. What's going on, man? Congrats on the T-shirt. That'll be coming your way very soon. What's up, Greg? Reports are that Eva Marie has recently been backstage filming promos for her return. That doesn't surprise me. We've heard stories of her potentially coming back in. I don't know what they're going to do with her. I was never a fan of her to begin with. If she's going to be just another Carmella or somebody like that, except like a lot worse in the ring, then I don't really care what they do with her. So we'll see. But a lot of people aren't as hard on Eva Marie as I am. I just have no interest in her, at all. Like, yeah, she's very beautiful. There's a lot of them. I don't know. She gives me nothing special, basically, is all I'm saying about her. But that was last time. Maybe she'll be better this time. I don't know. I don't care much either. What do you guys think about Eva Marie? Happy? Indifferent? Like me? What do you think they're going to do with her? Hey, Chris, what's up, man? Appreciate the $5 as well. Happy New Year, Greg. One of my buddies from San Fran now wants to move to San Diego after seeing the Gaslamp District and Old Town neighborhood. Yeah, those are fun. Old Town's always fun. Going down there and having some Mexican food, man. Gaslamp is always fun. I haven't been downtown in a while because I'm up north a little bit further than that. But once COVID goes away and life is back to normal, I'd like to get back down there and have some fun. Tigerzilla, thanks, man, for the $5. I've seen AEW haters who in the first few weeks of Dynamite were like, if it's so good, why are their numbers lower than WWE? Yeah, that's just a stupid way to look at it because they haven't been around for 60 years. When you look at WWE's numbers, they are low as shit compared to what they used to be. Drawing 1.5s on Raw. TNA doubled that shit, didn't they? A couple years back. So yeah, that feels like they got far worse problems where AEW, they see, because they haven't been around for so long and had crazy ratings in the past, they're just working with what they got in front of them. They're just trying to grow in their little area. They're seeing a lot of these ratings weeks as wins and victories to them. Where to WWE, 1.5 is a big, big loss. That's bad. So is a 1.7. So is anything under 3 pretty much, and which they've been under for a while. So yeah, shit's not good. I think AEW should be happy that they were able to not fold under this. Like when that COVID hit, they were only around 4 or 5 months. They barely had any, dynamites on TV yet and really established a run of any kind. And then that happened, and the fans still stuck around, and they were actually doing better than WWE was in the pandemic era at first when there was no fans around. They were the first ones to say, hey, maybe we should put 15 people around the fucking ring just to create some noise, instead of having Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre wrestle in the main event of WrestleMania, where you can literally hear a fly buzzing around if it would have been. They kind of started that hard cam on the aisle way that WWE stole from them. And then WWE finally realized, hey, we got to up our game here big time. They did. The Thunderdome, I think, isn't perfect, but man, it is makes a world of difference, and it almost makes the product close to what it was before. Because face it, were we getting a ton of huge pops and shit like that really before in the audience? They were dead as hell for most of these Monday Night Raws and Smackdowns. I think it's great to have a crowd for big things, big moments like Roman coming back and some of their promos, and a lot of the title changes that they've had. Crowd would have been a big help for that. But in terms of just regular everyday matches that we see on Raw and SmackDown, like we saw on SmackDown last night, that annoying trope that always happens. Oh, one-on-one match, interference, impromptu tag. How many times do they have to write that scenario? It wouldn't have mattered if fans were there. They would have had their thumbs up their asses. They wouldn't have cared about any of this shit. So the Thunderdome doesn't really matter, in cases like that. It's fine. I think where it bothers a lot of fans too is the piped in noise and stuff, but still it adds atmosphere. Give me piped in "This Is Awesome" chants over a completely dead, quiet arena where you can hear insects buzzing around any day of the week. I can live with the piped in "This Is Awesome" chants. It's okay. Just give me that. Just give me anything above what we've seen. So I think WWE wound up, upping their game with that, and it helped a lot. The Thunderdome. I think that's all of them. Did I get everybody? Yeah. All right. I think we're good. I think I can. Cena sucks too. Oh my gosh. I know. Cena sucks. None of that. Get your stupid shit out of here. We're not going to put up with that today. Fucking idiot. Cena sucks. It sucks. Yeah. Nobody cares about you at all. We don't like you. We don't care about you. And we know exactly what kind of fan you are. You are a dime a dozen. You're all the same. incapable of critical thought, incapable of thinking for yourself. You just repeat shit that you read. Shut up. All right, let's get on to actual adult stuff now and start with some of the news. I want to talk about this because I thought it was interesting. I read this on Fightful Select from their Patreon that said several WWE wrestlers have turned down contract renewals. They've been presented with contracts, and they've been looking at them. Apparently, they are way down and way less substantial than they were about a year ago when they were offering all of these renewals prior to COVID. And WWE, according to the reports, are no longer like in talent hoarding mode, where it really seemed apparent that that's what they were doing before, prior to the pandemic. They were getting, they were signing just wrestlers they didn't even need. They have so many wrestlers and so much talent on the roster that great main event caliber talent is eating salad every night and catering, doing jack shit at the shows. And, a lot of times they were keeping them to keep them away from AEW. That's why I took, the Revival and Luke Harper, so long to get out of there, was because WWE kind of had this mindset. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore now that things are a little bit different in the pandemic and priorities change a little bit. And apparently all the new contracts that they're offering to their current talent are offered for a lot less money, pretty much opening the door now for them to say, no, I might be able to make that over there. So now it's going to be like the balls in Tony Khan's court. Now he's going to have to decide, how much money he wants to offer for some of these contracts and stuff. And the talent might find themselves in a little bit better of a position for negotiating. And probably, and I think if any wrestler can get more money out of AEW, I'd go there, no matter who you are. And I'm curious when they say several WWE wrestlers, which several? I don't have no idea anybody's contract statuses at all. I don't follow that. I don't care. I'm interested in them when they come up and when they're coming close to coming up. But other than that, I don't have time to keep up with 70 wrestlers' fucking contractual shit. So it would be cool if somebody like Sami Zayn or maybe not Shinsuke, he just signed. Cesaro, my God, Cesaro taking another loss to Otis last night. I think that people like that could be hugely used in AEW and so be so big there. So I'm hoping that some of these wrestlers that they're talking about are the ones that haven't been used right anyway, or the fans have been frustrated in their pushes, or WWE seems to have no clue what to do with. I really hope Aleister Black can get the hell out of there, clearly, since they don't give a fuck about him anymore, and they got rid of Zelina, and this guy that should have walked right into Raw or SmackDown and been a brand new player for you. Brand new guy that you can use. World title contender. Somebody new, somebody fresh, somebody who puts on great matches, who impressed the hell out of everybody in NXT. Great look, great presentation. Amazing, move set with his kicks and his toughness and his ring ability. There's like literally hardly no downside. He's not the Rock on the mic or anything, but in terms of a wrestling character, Aleister Black was just phenomenal, and WWE couldn't care less. Could not care less. So think about what somebody like him could do if he was going to jump over to AEW, and he'd take Zelina with him. They could be a pair. She could accompany him to the ring. They'd look great together, I think. Probably even better than. I think Zelina and Andrade kind of matched a little bit. You almost thought that they were a couple, but like Zelina, I can just see like an outfit change for her, maybe having her, her and Aleister kind of have a little bit more, coordinated attire and stuff. They'd look like a fantastic duo coming into AEW. So whatever this leads to, I hope it leads to a few, at least a couple of underutilized talents in WWE getting the fuck out of there and going and working for AEW to where we can maybe see them be on TV, win some matches, be used, shit like that. And hopefully be used properly over there, because as much as I love AEW and I cheer them on and I root for them, I got to be honest, I ain't too impressed with Miro so far. I was really happy with what he did a couple of weeks ago when he showed up in the main event, went batshit and beat the fuck out of Orange Cassidy or whoever he beat up. That was great. I like to see angry, mad Miro. I don't like to see video game playing Miro and, acting crazy. And he always seems like he wears his pajamas to work. I don't know why. But, if they can take this talent and utilize them better than WWE, because they certainly did with Brodie Lee. At first it took Brodie Lee a little while to get cooking there, but, once he was, fully doing his thing and he was getting over into being the elites and he was establishing himself as the Exalted One and the leader and slapping around John Silver and everything and showing how funny he was, I was completely on board with him. And the annihilation of Cody was a beautiful thing to watch. So it can be done. And I hope that some of these talents, if they are offered, inferior deals or deals that weren't as good or to their liking or whatever, I hope they tell them to stick it up their ass and get out of there, man. That's what I hope they do. So we'll see if this turns into and translates into any WWE talent joining the AEW roster in 2021. We got a full year ahead of us here. Who do you think in 2021 by the end of the year is going to be in a different company? And this goes both ways as well. Let me know in the chat. Do you think there's going to be WWE guys jumping to AEW? There's definitely going to be a couple, I would say, in 2021 for sure. And there's a possibility it could go the other way. Now that AEW's been around over a year and stuff, once they've been around a little while, you will have to start talking about maybe some guys going over to the other side, like a Scorpio Sky or someone like that, maybe jumping and say, hey, I want to go try my hand in NXT or something. So it can go both ways, but I think in 2021, we're likely to see at least a couple of defections, I hope. So it depends on the contract statuses and shit like that. So I'll keep my eye on it. And if you guys hear any juicy bits, let me know. I also want to let you guys know I saw this on social media. I just wrote it down because I thought it was cool. WWE has released or is set to release a Best of Luke Harper section on the WWE Network in January. So there should be some really cool Luke Harper matches on the network right now if you want to check those out and watch some good stuff from him. So that was very cool that they added some Luke Harper stuff because he was there a lot of years and it's not like he didn't do anything. He had a pretty decent run there, even though at the end he was used like a pile of shit like WWE does to everybody. He was still good in the ring, won some championships, was a part of some pretty big moments, and I'm sure that's a pretty substantial playlist there. So check it out if you would like. After that, I'm going to get into Bruce the Asshole Mitchell here in a second, talk about him, and then we'll start rolling into Dynamite. But I want to knock out a couple of more super chats that came through while I was flapping my gums. Who's next? Devlin's back with $5 more. Appreciate it. I bet Aleister Black is on that list. He's got to be. Because if he had if he had 3 years left on his deal, they'd probably want to just start using him and get some money out of him or whatever. If he's down to like a year or less left, he ain't resigning. So they're probably just letting him, he might turn back up on TV at the very end. How much you want to bet they'll put him in there and job him out like they did EC3 and Moxley, I'm thinking of. Something like that. But yeah, he is a guy specifically that I thought would have been good enough to stand out in WWE in their land of giants and stars of the Roman Reigns and the Brocks and the Drews and all this crazy talent they have. I still thought Aleister Black was good enough to stand out among all of them. So if I think he's good enough to do that in WWE, he's definitely good enough to do that in AEW. I'll take some Aleister Black and Kenny Omega matches. Sign me the fuck up right now. Right? So imagine how good he would be there. He'd be phenomenal. So yeah, I'm hoping he's heading that way. He has to because I like him. I like him a lot. Chris Ludecki, thanks for $5 more, dude. I appreciate it. Who on the current roster do you think could pull a Drew McIntyre and become a star outside of WWE and be a main eventer and world champion? Oh, I thought you meant like in movies. I'm like, what the hell did Drew McIntyre? I thought you meant like The Rock, like outside of WWE. I see what you're saying. And then come back. God, I don't know. I got to put some thought into that one. I'm trying to think of who's on the roster right now that's good, but maybe just isn't ready. But back then when Drew was let go, well, no, NXT was there. I was about to say he could have just gone to NXT then. I got to give that some thought. I can't think of that off the top of my head. You guys give me suggestions on that. That's something I got to think about before I answer. Zane G, appreciate the $10. I think it's a low blow for WWE to get crapped on due to the Harper tribute fans gave AEW the upper hand for the Harper tribute. Yeah, I kind of thought it was, and it's kind of like what I'm going to say here about Bruce Mitchell. I was ignoring the whole Bruce Mitchell thing at first because I didn't give a fuck what some dumb, fucking elephant-faced fucker from Greensboro is writing about the Brodie family. I got bigger things to worry about. We got the death of Brodie Lee. I don't care about if there's an asshole out there or not right now. It's not, I don't care. But it wasn't until he acted the way he did about it that I was like, oh, fuck this guy. And it's the same thing here with WWE. They did a graphic. Would a 10 bell of salute have been nice? Yes. Yes. I would have liked that on Monday Night Raw. I think it would have been somewhat cathartic for the talent there because you got to remember Brodie was in 2 companies in this past year. And I said this when he died. I was like, this guy's literally friends with everybody in the business. Everybody in the business. WWE, AEW, and the independents. He's been everywhere, and he's an active wrestler. So pretty much anybody, I would say 75% of the active known wrestlers that have a little bit of notoriety that fans have at least heard of before know Luke Harper and have had interactions with him or known John Huber and have had interactions with him and have met him and have experienced what a great guy he is. And that's one thing we learned this week. I mean, I've always known because I said that I listened to him on the Talk is Jericho podcast. I knew that John was a cool guy. I knew he was a family guy. I knew he had his head screwed on straight. I knew he was smart. And I always liked the way he came off. But I wasn't aware that he was literally the nicest guy in the entire fucking wrestling business. He is the modern day Mick Foley. Nobody has spoken about John since, nobody has spoken about John the way they spoke about. What am I trying to say here? They're speaking about the two of them initially the same way. It's the same type of stuff that you hear from the peers, from the former wrestlers, from their current wrestlers that say he was great, he was the greatest guy, the nicest guy, approachable, he'd talk to you, he'd be there for you, he'd give you the shirt off his back type of thing. He was devoted to his family, and he was very smart, very intelligent, very well-read, very respectful, very polite. All of these, descriptions that you would always hear from Mick Foley. Nobody's ever talked about any wrestler like that, until John Huber came around. So it was a lot of the same type of stuff. And that was, to me, that was what it would have been helpful, I think, for the WWE talent, especially guys like Bray Wyatt and stuff, to maybe at least have that moment for them. But other than that, that's all I really thought about. I didn't think WWE was shitty. I didn't know, stupid fucking company or whatever. And I talked about that on Monday in the year-end Q&A. When we were talking about Brodie, I was like, I saw some of WWE's Luke Harper tributes and condolences to the family and some of their tributes to John and stuff. And when I scroll down and look at the comments, it was like literally all of them, of these asshole fans giving him shit for how he was used and stuff. And I'm like, God, there's just so not the time and place for that shit, man. Yeah, we're all frustrated with how WWE uses everybody, much less, just Luke Harper. He's just one example of many horrifically and criminally underused and misused pieces of talent WWE's had. But to throw that in their face now, I'm like, a man died, his wife and kids are left behind. That's important now, not if he lost on SmackDown. I don't give a fuck. So the fans' priorities are just so out of whack, the fact that they care about stuff like that. And yeah, would I like to have a 10-bell salute on Raw or SmackDown or something? Yeah, but I'm not flipping my lid that we didn't get it. We got it on AEW. AEW gave us arguably probably one of the best tribute shows that I've ever seen, and it was their first one. Like I said, they haven't had experience with this yet, and they're going to be their last either, because we know how this happens in wrestling. But WWE has done a lot of these 10-bell salutes. They've done a lot of these video packages and heartfelt comments from the wrestlers that they air and things like that. They've been through this, where AEW hasn't, and they, it was just a really good show filled with, and they didn't do a carbon cop. They didn't do it exactly the way WWE would. The 10-bell salute was done the same way, but that kind of needs to be like that. Everybody should be out there paying respect. Where else are you going to do it? Doing it on the stage is where it needs to be. But I like some of the little things they were doing in the matches. The fact that Brodie's son, booked the main event, and a lot of the in-ring tributes to the wrestlers, and a lot of the heartfelt comments, the commentary work, all that stuff was just really beautifully done. And kind of the ending, which we'll talk about with the belt presentation to -1 and stuff like that. So, and how they treated the family, which has been wonderful. So we'll get into that. That was all like really well done. They should be proud of themselves, how the way they honored Brodie and the way they took care of their family. And I think as a fan, I'm thankful that they gave us that show, because it helped me. It helped me. This whole thing has been just horrendous and very, very sad how how all that went down, how shocking it was that he died. So, in the end, WWE's treatment of Luke Harper isn't going to get any complaints out of me. I would have been okay with getting more, but what do I always say? Pick your battles. Pick your battles. And this isn't one that's worth it to me at all. Spaz, welcome back, dude. Appreciate the $20 super. Very generous of you. Hope all is well up in north of the border there. Happy New Year, Greg. In the chat, hope your New Year's Eve was more exciting than mine. It was awesome. Cobra Kai, baby. And I did here comes the plug. I did a WWE NXT year-end show with Jake DeMarco and Guapo. It dropped on New Year's Eve. Also got bored enough to review SmackDown. Cheers. Okay, well, that's good. You got SmackDown was not a horrible show, but I was at work last night, so I was asking people on Twitter how it was. And, yeah, nothing special. Sonya came back, and Owens took a table bump, and that was literally it. So go check out Spaz if you want to hear what he has to say about SmackDown last night, and a big year-end video over there as well. So check it out. Thanks, Spaz, for being here, and I appreciate it. All right, I think that's catches us up super chat wise there. And then I want to roll into this Bruce Mitchell stuff. Like I said, I wouldn't have never talked about this, because when it first came out, I was almost kind of like, I read what happened, but I was like, I don't give a shit, this fucking guy, like I don't care. I mean, yes, it's shitty and everything, but bigger fish to fry right now in my head. That was my initial kind of take on it, until the dumb shit decides to double, triple, and quadruple down on his stance, which, when you look at everything that happened here, I think a simple apology. Yo, my bad. That was irresponsible. That was insensitive to the family. I should have known better. I've got more experience. I've got enough experience to know that I should have thought this through, and that was maybe a selfish decision to post the article. I sincerely apologize to my to the family of John Huber and all of that, and I think it would have completely gone away. I think we would have forgotten about it in 2 days, and that was it. But instead, he just goes on and on about this. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about here, Bruce Mitchell has been a writer for the Pro Wrestling Torch for about 30 years. He lives in North Carolina. I probably even ran into him a time or two without even knowing it, because I used to go to a lot of shows in Greensboro. But he wrote, when Brodie died, he immediately posted, it's not even really an article. It's certainly not a news report. It's an op-ed, really, is all it is, where he's basically theorizing that Brodie Lee died of COVID-19. And he pretty much flat out accused not only AEW, but Brodie's family of covering it up and trying to hide the fact that he died of COVID-19, despite the fact that he was tested several times, this is proven and shown, several times for COVID, all coming back negative. It was a non-COVID lung-related issue, and the family, the reason they weren't talking about it is because they wanted fucking privacy. You want to know why? Because it isn't any of our goddamn business. That's why, Bruce. And so when he decided to theorize on this and have this like conspiracy theory, where he basically says, well, WWE and AEW have had COVID issues, and and the fact that so many lung conditions are connected to COVID. He tried to put all these dots together and connect these dots, and then basically say, like, less than 1 day after this man passes away, to accuse the wife of not being truthful or not being honest with the diagnosis or with the cause of death or anything like that. And fans, rightfully so, immediately got pissed. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This body's not even cold. And you're sitting here making all these assumptions and throwing out these like conspiracy theories that they don't want to let it be known that it was COVID and stuff. And it was like, the fans were just like highly annoyed by this and very, very offended. And it was really offensive. I'm like, how the fuck can you say that to these people? How can you say that to Amanda, who literally just lost her husband? And he remains firm on his stance, and he was like, no, I think something's up here, and this is how I feel, and I stand by every single word that I said, is what he said. And then the Torch pulled down the article and said that it doesn't really fall in line with their standards of journalism, things like that. And there's no way any one single word of this shit he wrote down was considered journalism at all. And it doesn't live up to our standards, so we pulled it down, which kind of irritated Bruce even more. And then he started pushing the article on some other website, some Greensboro news website or something like that, really trying to hammer home this point, getting just completely lambasted. I mean, everybody, there was not a single person out there in the wrestling community that was coming out there and defending this shithead. He was receiving shit from everybody, wrestlers, fellow journalists, colleagues, and tons of fans, until finally he was let go. He was relieved of his duties. After 30 years, he no longer writes for the Pro Wrestling Torch, so he still didn't go away. He was still being an asshole, and I think finally the fans were so relentless on him, he finally deleted at least his Twitter. I don't know if he had other social media accounts other than that, but he deleted his Twitter. And just what a horrible and shitty thing to do. Like, what is wrong with you? Look at yourself in the mirror and realize, and just look at yourself deeply. Look at your really, really horrifically ugly face and realize that you are one of the biggest piece of shits that's alive. To not only do something like that, but at least to not even have the sense to back down a little bit. And like I said earlier, it was such almost an irrelevant article. Yeah, I know Bruce has been around for 30 years, but nobody's rushing to Bruce's shit to read it once something happens, So it was small enough issue to where, yeah, it was shitty. Yeah, what he said sucked. If he would have came out and apologized, I would, at least me, I don't know about you guys, I would have already forgotten about it. I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, okay, he apologized, whatever, on with my life. But the fact that he made such a point to not back down from this, to the point where everybody has been making comments to him, including Amanda Huber, had to take time away from grieving, mourning the loss of her husband, dealing with her 2 kids that just lost a father, planning a funeral, and God knows what else is going on in her head right now. She has to take time away from that to actually publicly respond to this pickled dick motherfucker. I couldn't believe that she actually had to do that. And she said, she had to say things that she shouldn't have had to say. She had to reveal things that she was trying to keep private, but she had to say, basically debunk all of his theories and say, for you to focus so heavily on this and for you to be so convinced and obsessed with the fact that it was COVID when it's not, just shows what a disrespectful asshole you are, and how much it bothered and pissed her off and hurt her. And I don't blame her one bit. I don't blame her one bit. And I wish she'd run into him. She'd whip his ass. I just think it was just so shitty, just such a shitty thing to do. So I never read his shit anyway. Never really read Torch much. As a matter of fact, back in the 90s, I used to call it the toilet paper torch back in the day. I was never really a huge reader of the publication or anything like that. And I don't give a fuck about Bruce Mitchell one way or the other. But for him to say all of that and then to be so aggressively douchey about it, by not even considering that he might have said something just a teensy bit wrong. And instead of saying, okay, maybe I could have done this or this differently, I apologize, whatever. Like I said, all you needed was an apology. All you needed was sorry. People would have been mad at you for a couple of weeks. Life would have gone on, but now, which would you have picked? Double down on your stance and, that clearly is wrong and has been told so by every single person in the world. Who the fuck was defending this guy? Nobody. Everybody in the world, including wrestlers, peers of John, and his own fucking family themselves, are telling you what a lying piece of shit you are and how you have got this thing completely wrong. All you would have had to do is say, sorry, and we would have forgotten about it. But instead, he's decided to act like the world's biggest douche. He's now lost his job. And if those were my choices, I'd pick apologize. I'm sorry. I apologize, Amanda. That was irresponsible of me, and it was extremely insensitive of me to print those words. Sorry. Or would you just rather be a douchebag and be fired? I don't know which one I should pick there. This guy clearly isn't that smart, and I'm glad that he's gone, and we don't need people like him around at all. So, fuck you, Bruce Mitchell, for what you did. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Now we'll move into AEW Dynamite, talk a little bit about the Brodie Lee tribute. Then we'll talk about last night's Smackdown. We'll preview Monday's Raw, and we'll preview Wrestle Kingdom, and then I am going to leave. You won't see me till Monday. Hope you guys can handle that. Who's up next on the Super Chats before we get into the other stuff? Oh, I got you already. Oh, I scrolled up too far. Spaz, I got you. Oh, good. Okay, I'm caught up. I got up. Oh yeah, I saw that Snowden did kind of at first defend him. I get along with him just fine. But I know that he does tend to get into the drama a little bit on Twitter. I read all that Twitter drama. I just kind of laugh. I'm like, who would want to get into these fucking conversations? Every now and then you'll find yourself getting into an argument or a spat with some dumb shit, But he really seems to sink his teeth into it sometimes. It probably gets him a whole bunch of shit hurled his way too. So he might be one. But it's not reporting, that's the thing. I think I understand people say, well, when somebody else dies, a lot of times you speculate or whatever. It was the way this was done is this was basically an accusation, directed directly to the family that they're hiding and covering something up. It just wasn't right. Timing was wrong. Information was wrong. The way it was written was wrong, loaded with typos and misspellings. It looked like fucking 4-year-old wrote it. So there's no defending this shithead whatsoever at all, no matter who you are. Oh, man. Yeah. But Amanda and her 2 kids can move on. I don't want Amanda to have to worry about, committing her time to think about somebody who's not worth it. That's why I didn't initially comment on this to begin with, because Bruce Mitchell is not worth my time. He is not worth my time to talk about. It wasn't until he started being such a colossal douche. I'm like, okay, when I do my podcast, I'm going to say so. But other than that, I don't give a fuck about this guy at all. I don't care what he writes or says or anything. But when it's that out of line and it gets the attention of literally the entire wrestling world, how can you ignore it? So, I just want to make my thoughts known and make sure if anybody was curious how I felt about Bruce Mitchell, I think he's a piece of shit. So, there you go. Anyway, let's move on to Wednesday night, AEW. You know what? We will tie this in too before we get into the actual results of the show, because I have been looking around for, I guess the ratings due to the holiday are going to be delayed. I don't think the official numbers are out until Monday, but there's a preliminary number floating around. I don't know the validity of it. That is 977,000, just under 1 million. And I was curious about what the ratings would be this week. And I said so in my thing. I said, this would be kind of cool, I think, if the Brodie Lee tribute is able to deliver AEW's biggest rating. Not because of any competition with WWE, not because of any bragging rights for the fans or any of that bullshit, but because I think that would be nice if Brodie Lee was the reason for AEW's biggest rating ever. And, and that might stand for a while because, we're still in the COVID era. And until we get fans back in the arena and the excitement and the enthusiasm back to the way it was back before, I don't know how much higher than a million or so people are going to, or how much more than a million or so people are really going to watch AEW. So I thought it would be nice if Brodie Lee delivered them their biggest rating. Had nothing to do with against WWE or NXT. Like I said, out of just deference to John, I didn't watch NXT this week. I didn't want to really review it here. I didn't write down any notes for it. I watched, like I said, I read the results, watched 3 YouTube clips. That was it. That, to me, it was all about AEW this week and Brodie Lee. And next week we'll get back to business, and we got New Year's Evil coming up, and that's going to be fun. But in terms of this week, it was more about just the Brodie tribute to anything else to me. And the ratings were completely secondary and stuff. But what really bothered me is how many fans were like, they're trying to get very recreationally offended and trying to find something to be offended about. And I saw so many people telling people like Alvarez and Meltzer, and I know I've met Brian and Dave. They're both great people, but I as much as I like them, I see their own fangirling for AEW for myself. It definitely exists. They're not fooling anybody if they're going to try to act unbiased, because they're not. But when they report, but there's nothing wrong with reporting the ratings. Like every week, Brian will just put AEW this number, NXT this number. He's not editorializing. He's not adding any comments. He's just saying, this is what they got. This is what they got. That's it. The problem is what's going on in the responses. The problem is what's going on in the comments. The problem is what's going on in the wrestling community. People fighting at each other over a stupid fucking number that means nothing. Nobody should ever start a fight over a number. So when I see these fans trying to, these do-gooders, these self-righteous assholes, really shouldn't talk about the ratings this week. Shouldn't report them. It's not about the ratings. It's about Brodie Lee. Yes, it is about Brodie Lee, but there's nothing at all wrong with reporting what the rating is. What's wrong is how people react to it. So instead of smugly telling a news site that they shouldn't report the ratings, here's a thought. How about just don't be an asshole to other strangers on the internet about it? When the ratings are reported, don't say a fucking word. Don't argue. Don't say yay or don't say nay or I wish they got higher. Oh, WWE's probably shaking in their boots or any of that dumb shit that you read on a weekly basis. If the fans really had the respect for Brodie that they think they have, that's what they would have done. And that's what they should do whenever this final number comes out. When it comes out, say, look at that, and go on with your fucking day. Don't worry about what Jimmy in the comments says. Don't worry about what some fuckhead says in the comments. Don't worry about it. Ignore it. Move on. That's how you tribute Brodie Lee. And then it truly won't be about the ratings, because that's what I thought was so funny. It's not about the ratings. Yeah, we know. You're making it about it. So if it's not about the ratings, then don't make it about the ratings. And when the numbers come out, shut your fucking shithole. Is this rocket science? I don't understand. So I just thought that was a silly thing for fans, to try to act like they gave a shit. Oh, come on. You're not fooling anybody. It's like you have to show restraint in yourself. Don't worry about what the sites are reporting. You're reporting the ratings. Commenting on them is one thing. If Meltzer, Alvarez, or whoever, well, Sean Sapp would never do this, but if one of those other guys, were saying AEW drew this big rating and they're the greatest and WWE sucks and I love them, then that's going to cause an argument. But if you're just putting what the number is with nothing else on there and the fans choose to be literally the world's biggest assholes to each other, then that's their problem. That's their internal issue. And that's the lack of respect that they have. It has nothing to do with anybody that's reporting the ratings. You can report them. Maybe don't comment on them. Maybe don't give a 4-paragraph opinion about them. That's one thing. But reporting what the number is, nothing wrong with that at all. If the fans can't show restraint and shut their own fucking mouth, they're the ones with the problem, not the news sites. So I found that silly that so many fans were going out of their way, smugly telling these news sites, don't report the ratings. I'm like, no, dickhead. How about just don't be a dick? I don't understand how any of this is hard, for wrestling fans. So the ratings thing, I kind of got a kick out of. I am curious what the rating is, though. Not because I care about WWE or arguing with the fans. I'm curious what it drew. They reported what Kobe's funeral drew at Staples Center, or not funeral, his big memorial that they had right before COVID, like literally right before COVID really hit the fan. Beautiful, huge gathering and tribute to Kobe Bryant at the Staples Center with Michael Jordan and his family and everybody there. They reported that number. Nobody was saying, "Oh, you really shouldn't report that number," because there's nothing going head to head with it for the fans to bitch about. So like, it's okay to report it. It's okay to report it. There's nothing wrong with that. Alvarez is not an asshole. Meltzer's not an asshole. None of these news sites are assholes if they just tell you what the rating is. If you can't keep it together emotionally and you can't keep your shit in check, you're the one with the issue. It's you. Go see a psychiatrist and fucking grow up while you're at it. So the rating to me doesn't matter. Reporting it didn't matter. And I am still curious what they wind up drawing for that show. But anyway, like we said, the Wednesday night show, I thought, was one of the most beautiful tributes ever. Like I said, they opened up with the 10-bell salute. They had all the talent out there on the stage. You saw the family, and it's what you see as little kids there, and even though Brodie Jr., how old is he? 8 maybe? And the little one is only 2 or something. I don't know their exact ages, but they're both almost like probably a little bit too young to really fully understand, especially the older one. When I saw the wrestlers were so kind to him. You see him beating up everybody at the New Year's Eve party. Adam Cole was even in attendance for that. So -1 was beating the hell out of Ricky Starks and even knocked out Adam Cole and got a 3 count on him. So the wrestlers were being so kind to this kid. The Dark Order guys and John Silver just letting him have the time of his life back there, bashing him in the heads with kendo sticks and having a good time. The kid looked like he was having the time of his life. I don't know if it's quite really sunk into his young brain yet, the severity of this. Like, I worry that as he gets older, I'm so glad that these memories are being made for him. I mean, my God, when this kid's like 20 or something and he looks back at these videos of, him and how AEW treated him and all the things he did, it's going to be hard for him. It's going to be emotional when he really grows up and especially enters adulthood. And I think a lot of people too can help him, like Brian Pillman Jr. and, and other people in the wrestling business that lost fathers at young ages, can help, maybe give advice and things like that. And then of course the youngest one will be, probably too young to remember much of anything, but Amanda's the one that's got to hold all this together. She's the adult, she's his wife. And she was just visibly, really struggling on stage there. So was Miro. He was the only one that I could see that was really, kind of sobbing hard. So right off the bat, they were kind of hitting you with some, pretty deep stuff here. And they do the 10-bell salute. They immediately cut right to some comments from Jon Moxley, who we know goes way back with Luke Harper, even prior to WWE. But they had some big run-ins there. Of course, Wyatt family and the Shield were, some of the biggest matches ever. So their history, kind of speaks for itself. And he said some really nice words, and that would kind of be an ongoing theme. They would do that. They would show comments from various wrestlers throughout the night, which I thought was really cool. WWE does the same thing. First match of the night, it kicked off emotional right off the bat. You had the Hardy Party taking on the Young Bucks and Boom Boom. We had Chris Jericho on commentary for this, and he kind of told everybody it's okay to be emotional, it's okay to cry. We're here to celebrate Brodie Lee. This is going to be fun. It did kind of have that atmosphere, a little bit of the Owen show, because back in '99, even though they went through with the show at Over the Edge, the next night they weren't furthering that many storylines. It was more like, I think they just let the talent decide if they wanted to wrestle or not. And then the people that did, they kind of booked various matches. They didn't really get back to storyline business until the next week. So a lot of the matches were just random. Yes, some of the matches, the opponents had issues, but they probably would not have been booked had Owen not died. It probably would have been something else. So the whole show kind of felt like that, where it was just kind of, people were just going out there trying to tribute Owen the best they could on the mic, having a match, trying to give him something in the ring, because that night, there was an audience of one, just like there was on Wednesday. There's only one person watching. That's Brodie. So they treated that the same way. Like, these matches are for him kind of thing. So seeing Colt Cabana come out there, that was hard. You could see it all around his eyes. Struggled to even get to the ring. But once the match got underway, they got cooking a little bit. He started stepping it up, and he wound up getting the pin with the big Superman pin. And a lot of that was, for Brodie, because they go way back. They've had a fun dynamic on TV recently too, prior to his death, with Colt not officially being in the Dark Order, but kind of accepting him here. And you could see how hard it was for him to get through that. The Acclaim and SCU got involved after that as well. And wound up throwing the Hardy Party back in the ring. Throwing the Acclaim back in the ring. They got a couple of super kicks, and kind of ended in a big kind of brawl like that. But it was nice just to see Colt go in there and doing his thing and doing his moves. And we knew this was going to be a Dark Order heavy card with a lot of Dark Order victories here, and it was, even though the Bucks were kind of honorary members for one night of the Dark Order. After that, we got a backstage Darby promo talking about Brodie Lee as well. It was all black and white, very cool. And he hasn't known Brodie Lee for very long, but he talked about how the guy just had no ego whatsoever, and he didn't. That's one thing we've heard from everybody. He didn't walk around there like he was king shit. He was there to just work, just be himself, and to elevate. He's 41 years old. He spent nearly a decade in WWE. Now he's coming over. And much like Jericho and much like a Matt Hardy and stuff, he's working with guys and trying to help get them over, which is what he was doing in the Dark Order. And did we give a fuck about the Dark Order prior to Brodie getting there? Hell, even when Brodie first got there, fans still weren't on board. It took a while. But then he helped get some of these other personalities out. Without Brodie Lee, I'm not sure if I would have appreciated John Silver. Now I think he's one of the most hilarious motherfuckers there is. And Alex Reynolds and Ten and Anna Jay and people like that who I think really helped come out of their shell, get noticed, and stick out a little bit more because of Brodie and his influence on the faction and stuff. So, Darby talked a lot about that, how he was really just there to elevate. And that's pretty much what he did the whole time he was there. So cool words from Darby. I like that a lot. This was another good match, another tag match. Lance Archer teaming up with John Silver and Alex Reynolds, taking on Eddie Kingston, the Butcher and the Blade, the Kingston family. It's weird that Eddie and Kofi don't even look anything alike. It's weird, they're brothers. Anyway, we had Lance Archer coming out with the wife beater stuff. So he was wearing like the Brodie Lee or the Luke Harper the gear, which I really, really liked. That was awesome. I don't have a finish written down here. Archer was doing some crazy stuff in the match, if I remember too, right? Didn't he do like old school and a moonsault and everything? This guy, I felt like he was kind of on the verge of a babyface turn, but if he's not there yet, he needs to be like immediately, because he's working babyface. He's 43 years old and he's big and he's good, and squeeze what you can out of him. Wouldn't even mind him, but I wouldn't even mind him maybe getting into the Dark Order. I know he's got Jake with him, but Jake might almost fit in there. When I saw Archer wearing the Luke Harper gear, the wife beater and the jeans, he looked like a badass there. I mean, I don't know, maybe. You're never going to be able to fill those shoes again and stuff, but if they want to continue the Dark Order going and they want to, bring another big, bad, rugged wrestler into the fold there, maybe Archer and Jake could have something to offer for the Dark Order. I don't know. It was a good match there, and seeing Archer come out looking like that and doing some things he was doing in the ring was very cool. I like the next match better, though. This was John Silver, right? This was John Silver and Alex Reynolds and Hangman against MJF and Proud and Powerful. That's the match I was trying to think of here. I didn't have it underlined. This one might have been my favorite one. MJF coming out in like the Proud and Powerful kind of gear and the shit on his tights, and he was wearing like a bandana. That got a huge chuckle out of me. It got a little bit of heat at first, and by the way, I wasn't home on Wednesday night. I actually had to go into work for a few hours during Dynamite, so I was super bummed out that I couldn't watch it. But I was asking you guys for updates and stuff on Twitter, and I was peeking at my phone at work as much as I could because we weren't very busy, so I had plenty of free time. I was going to the office or going to the bathroom or going outside and checking it out. As a matter of fact, when the show started, I sat in my car and watched the 10-bell salute. So I was able to see a little bit of it, and I was seeing on Twitter, I was seeing all the heat MJF was getting for yelling at Brodie Jr. He flips him off and gives him the finger. And then on Twitter he wrote, "Fuck that kid." If anybody can get away with that, it's MJF. I mean, anybody else, I think a lot of fans were like, I don't know if it was the right time for that, or I don't know if that was crossing a line. I didn't think it was, number one, because MJF stays true to himself no matter what, and number two, in a way that's also putting Brodie over. We talked about that with Eddie Guerrero and some other people that have been involved past their death in storylines and stuff. They always say, what would they have wanted? Like some people, maybe some wrestlers would have a problem with it. Somebody like Eddie, I don't think would have had a problem with what they did with his name and stuff. And, Brodie Lee, I'm not sure if he would really have a huge problem with what MJF did to his son. If this son apparently is already signed, AEW has guaranteed him a contract when he's old enough to wrestle. So he doesn't want to have that stigma of being somebody that's got everything handed to him. So let's toughen him up. Let's show him what it's all about. I'm sure backstage, MJF and him had a nice conversation. Hey, I'm going to go give you the finger and I'm going to rip the mask off your head. Don't worry about it. I'm sure it was all worked out well and it was fine. But I think took a lot of fans off guard when he did that and jaw-jacked at the kid. And then later on, we had, during the match continues, by the way, after he yells at him and gives him the finger, he gets back in the ring. Brodie's kids, by the way, were at ringside for the whole show, or at least -1 was. And match continues. Wardlow winds up getting involved, and that's when Eric Rowan or Eric Redbeard shows up to kind of make the save there. He comes out and gets rid of Wardlow, and I'm so glad they brought him in. I am so glad they brought him in. He went running away. Even Jericho was like, I think he called him Eric Rowan and even mentioned the Bludgeon Brothers. I think Excalibur was like, it's Redbeard, which was kind of funny. So he's going to be Eric Redbeard. I don't know if he's in there. He's going to resign and come in for a while. I hope they sign him. I hope they sign Rowan. I do. But at least for this, he was just out there for one night. He chased away Wardlow and brawled with him. That's when MJF finds himself back out on the outside of the ring again, and he finds himself face-to-face with -1. This time, he rips off the Dark Order hat that Brodie's kid is wearing, which I'm like, oh, my God. And that's when the guys that are standing there, he's got the kendo stick with him. MJF rips off the mask, and he turns around to gloat, and he turns around, and Brodie Jr. just hits him square in the head or square in the face with a kendo stick. He goes down. So he got his comeuppance. You knew that was going to happen. The minute he flipped that kid off, you knew Brodie Jr. was going to wind up whipping his ass. So that was really fun. Back in the ring, John Silver, shout out to his wrestling gear, by the way. He was wearing a Brodie Lee inspired gear. Thought he looked good in it. And he wound up hitting the discus lariat for the win. And he was another one, much like Colt and much like Anna Jay, who I'll talk about later. You could see it. You could see it in their face, and they were just, So after he got the pin, he kind of laid there for a while. It took them a while to kind of lift him up, and, so sad, but very cool. And at the end, to make this match even more emotional, after they got the win, Eric comes back, and he's got a sign with him. He kind of puts his arm around the Dark Order and holds up the sign, and I think it said, goodbye for now, or something like that, which is kind of opposite of what people say Brodie always said. Apparently, when he said goodbye to somebody, he said goodbye forever. So they said goodbye for now, and then I think it said something like, we'll see you again in the future, something like that. But another very, very emotional visual, just to see. Because like I said, I've been saying this, he was an active wrestler. This isn't Pat Patterson or Howard Finkel, which, yes, those are all sad, but this is a guy that, so many current wrestlers know. It's just, like I said, it tore just a gaping hole, through the entire wrestling community. So I was really happy that they brought him in, and Eric was there to do that thing. I hope they use him more. I would love to see him join the Dark Order. I was hoping that the Bludgeon Brothers could do something. An injury cut that all short, but they sure were being smashed over when they put them together, even though it was a lot of missteps and hiccups along the way throughout the career of Rowan and Harper. By the time they put them together there as a Bludgeon Brothers, I thought they had a chance to at least be somewhat dominant, but injuries and all that slowed that down. And, I know they wouldn't have done this, but, and again, I'm not using this as a way to attack WWE at all, because I'm sure it probably never even came up or they were never even asked. But I think it would have been cool if they would have allowed Bray Wyatt to be there. Not to do a run-in or moves, but be on the stage or something, or maybe offer some comments, or something. Yes, I know everybody's under contract and shit like that, but can we make an exception? Can Bray Wyatt record some thoughts? Maybe just record it right there in WWE. Maybe not drive to Jacksonville and be present in the crowd on Dynamite, because maybe that would be too much, but maybe record something that he could use on Dynamite. Things like this have been done in the past. Christian got sent to TNA, and Ric Flair was in the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony for the Horsemen and things like that. We've seen some agreements be worked out before. I don't think the blood is bad enough between these two companies yet that something couldn't work out. I don't think this would have worked out in WCW, with all the shit that went on, the giving away the ratings and the NWO and Rick Rude on both shows on the same night and all the terrible things they did to each other. Not sure if it would have worked there, but it would have been cool if WWE would have just allowed Bray Wyatt to have a presence, because based on what he wrote on his Instagram post about Luke Harper, you could tell that he's one of the deepest affected wrestlers by this. Just based on, his words and everything. You could just hear, you could feel everything he wrote. So I thought it would have been cool if he could have just been there. Like I said, not in the ring, not attack anybody, just make some comments, or just, have an interview, or just be shown or something like that. I think would have been cool if they could do. But anyway, they didn't. Eric Rowan was there. He's Redbeard now. And I hope, like I said, I hope he sticks around. He's a big dude too. He'd be perfect in the Dark Order. They could use him. After that, we had an Eddie Kingston tribute as well, where he had said a few words. He said a few words on the mic too as he came out to the ring for the previous match, and he goes way back as well. He traveled all over the place with with Brodie, so he was another guy. I'd put him on the list with with John Silver and Colt, because you could tell that he struggled as well. He had a lot in common with John and stuff, and they had a good relationship. So it was sad to see him in that environment. You could tell how badly it affected him. this is another match that was hard to watch, man. God, the women's match, and they had advertised this. It was going to be Anna Jay and Tay Conti taking on Britt Baker and Penelope Ford. And of course, Tay Conti, I think in recent weeks has been trying to be recruited into the Dark Order. I think her and Anna Jay are kind of like BFFs, and they're all like that on social media as well. They do everything together. And Anna Jay, of course, is a full-fledged member of the Dark Order, and she's another one. She's extremely young. And so the short time that she was able to know Brodie, she grew attached to him, and you could see she was one of the ones that struggled the hardest to come out there, because, he probably offered her a lot of good advice, and he probably helped her out a lot in terms of a veteran, and somebody who's very young. I don't know how old Anna Jay is, but she's only been in the ring a couple of years. And this match here was really good. Like, she's pretty smooth. And I said this a couple of weeks back, even before Brodie died. I'm like, if Anna Jay can really get a hold of this wrestling thing, she's going to be great, because she already has just an outstanding look. She's perfect for wrestling, and she's good in the ring, and she's going to get better in the ring. And just watching her move around, yeah, she's just been in a couple of years, but she's got this like smoothness to her that there's potential there. There's like definitely potential with Anna Jay, and she's somebody that I think is only going to get better. And she was clearly having a hard time. I literally lost it when she, did that. You could see. Poor girl. I feel bad for her. He was probably a father figure to her, and really in the short time they knew with each other, probably bonded. They were in the same faction, and he probably gave her a lot of good pointers and good advice about how to be in front of a camera and how to do some of these segments and skits and, and shit that they were doing in matches in the ring and stuff. So you could tell that she was deeply affected by it. They probably grew close in the short amount of time they were there. And it's not even close to the same thing, but I'm a little bit older than Brodie Lee. And I've been in the restaurant business for 30 years, and it's the same thing. I'm now the tiring veteran, and I form relationships with a lot of young people. There's a food runner that we've got that I've kind of taken under my wing in the past like 6 months. He's dumber than a box of rocks, but he works hard, and he's young, and I see that he wants to do better. And and sometimes like I help him out. I do that with with all sorts of stuff, with hostesses or anything like that. And this one kid in particular, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Anna Jay because, he's young and he's coming up, and I've been able to kind of show him a couple things and tell him a couple things that, man, he said to me before, like, man, I never even thought about that. And I'm like, oh, these are little things that you're just going to instinctively learn, so I have that same like kind of feeling in my own job, that I'm the veteran, and that I can kind of show people that are just coming in how it works, how you do this, how you do that. And I've had similar relationships in the restaurants that Brodie Lee probably had with Anna Jay, so to be able to see her, struggling that hard with it, I especially felt bad for her. I felt like it was really, really rough on her. But they did great. They had a great match. I knew they were going to win here. I knew Penelope was probably going to be taking the pin here, not Britt Baker. There was a really great finish too. I love the finish. Anna gets the sleeper on Penelope Ford, and Tay Conti just comes flying across the ring to extinguish Britt Baker, who's trying to break up the finish there, and just nails her with an awesome forearm. Britt goes rolling out of the ring, and I think even Tay takes out Rebel as well, while Anna is choking out Penelope Ford, and and Anna and Tay Conti win. So that was a really good match, I thought, and it was a really excellent finish. And like I said, the Anna Jay stuff was, I felt horrible for her. After the match, though, they leave. Conti and Anna Jay leave arm in arm, and they get out of there. And Tony comes back in the ring to interview Britt Baker. So I was like, oh, good, we're going to get a Tony and Britt interview. It's kind of weird that we're interviewing the loser here, but I don't give a shit. Tony and Britt in the same ring is money to me. And she says she's sick of this conspiracy. She said everything and everyone is rigged. Tay Conti is rigged. Anna Jay is rigged. The Dark Order is rigged. AEW is rigged. As a matter of fact, the whole thing is just one big rig. Thank you for that, Britt Baker. We had a Jericho tribute up next to Brodie Lee as well, and this one I liked. Jericho, he was one of the ones I was especially looking forward to because I knew that he's got multiple run-ins with Harper as well. Knows him from WWE and AEW. Plus, he's had him on his Talk Is Jericho podcast, I believe, twice. I talked about the one I listened to about 5 years ago that I thought was really good, that opened me up and made me realize who Luke Harper was. And I'm like, he's a regular fucking dude. Who would have thought? So Jericho, I was interested to hear what he said. And probably the best part of his tribute was when he told a little anecdote of being in Saudi Arabia with him. And he's like, yeah, we were just in the hotel, and he came over to my room to hang out, and all night long, I'm looking at the ceiling, and there's just like this fucking thing up there. It's like the sticker, and I don't know why it's there. And I'm like, what is this thing? It's bothering me. And he's like, Brodie comes over to hang out, and we're just sitting there, and he goes, "Hey, man, what the hell is this? I'm this thing on this roof. What do you think that is? It's bothering me, whatever's sticking on the ceiling there." And Brodie's like, "Well, that's the arrow pointing to Mecca." And he said it as if it was like, what do you mean? What is that? That's the arrow pointing to Mecca. Everybody knows that. And he kind of said it in such a way that Jericho was like, "What do you mean? I didn't know that." And it was kind of a way to illustrate really just how smart he was. And everybody said that about Luke Harper. He's very smart, very well read, very cultured, very knowledgeable. And that's hard to find in wrestling. Luke Harper, I mean, now it's a little more common now. You have some wrestlers that actually, go through schooling and stuff like that. But, putting Luke Harper and his level of intelligence into a locker room in the 1970s, that would have been an interesting dynamic. Brodie would have been a stranger in paradise in that one. But that was a really nice tribute by Jericho. I like that a lot. And then we had the main event. This main event was completely booked by Brodie Lee Jr., -1. His 3 favorite wrestlers are Dark Order member number 10, Orange Cassidy, and Cody. They're going to be taking on Team Taz. It's going to be Starks, Cage, and Will Hobbs, correct? This was another fun match, but you knew it was going to be heavily just kind of revolved around Brodie because this was kind of the final match of the night. This was going to be it. They were going to do the big tribute at the end. So it was no big surprise here that the baby faces were going to get the win. And I was hoping that 10 would get the finish, and he did. He was able to get the pin there, which was nice. Dark Order guy getting the victory. And then after the match, of course, here it all comes. Team Taz comes back into the ring and attacks. Then you start hearing Darby Allin's music play. He comes out, through the little side door where Moxley comes, but then he stops. And before he runs down to the ring to make the save, the lights go out again, and Sting's music plays. And Sting shows up. It starts snowing. He comes out to join Darby Allin. And that image of the two of them standing there together in the same frame was so awesome. How good do they look together? Now, I know I've gone on record saying that I was not a big fan of the comparison between Sting and Darby. I always thought it was a stretch. Yeah, their face paint's black and white, and yeah, Darby sits in the stands and Sting was in the rafters, but other than that, the comparisons stop. They're not the same size. Their wrestling styles are not the same. Darby Allin skateboards and snowboards. Surfer Sting never even fucking surfed, so I don't even know where they got that name for him from. They literally have nothing else in common. They're not the same people. Sting is more, of a family man, and he's religious now, and Darby Allin's a risk taker, and he's jumping off bridges. Even when Sting was young, he wasn't jumping off bridges. He wasn't doing that. They're not the same, so I just thought that nothing about them was that much alike, aside from maybe their look, because everything else, wrestling style, personality, size, everything, is not the same. So I always said that Darby Allin, to me, much more resembled to Jeff Hardy. Even though they don't look alike either, they are the same size. They do have a similar style. They have similar personalities in the risk-taking, as Jeff Hardy does the motocross, and he does all that. They're kind of similar. They mesh much better to me than Sting and Darby. However, when I saw that visual of the two of them standing there together, I said, that looks great. I still don't know how Sting is going to work out as a manager. I don't really know if that's the right role for him, or even if that is his role. But it appears now that he is going to be accompanying Darby Allin, at least sometimes, to the ring. He did here. So that's going to be a regular thing. Putting Sting with Darby the same way you put Arn with, Cody, or Tully with, the FTR, or Jake with Archer. I don't know. I think Sting's more valuable than that almost. I don't know what other role you'll have him in. I'm not sure. So it looks like he is going to have an alliance with Darby Allin, which, based on how they look together on Wednesday, I'm not necessarily against. I always just said that I thought, the comparison, aside from the black and white, because Darby's not even that mysterious. He talks. Sting didn't talk for 2 years. So maybe some of the ominous nature of their characters a little bit, and the black and white, and the fact that they like to hang out in the arena, that's about where the comparisons end right there. So I never thought it was really that good of an idea, but I might have had my mind changed on Wednesday. I thought they looked really great together. Darby comes out, of course, makes the save, and that's kind of the end of that. And the show did not go off the air. Once everybody kind of got out of the ring, you were left with Cody. Tony Khan came in the ring, and we had the really nice Brodie Lee tribute that you knew was going to be tough to get to or get through. Cody speaks first. He brings out the family. He brings out Amanda. They got the kids in there. And then, you see Brodie Jr. placing his dad's boots in the ring. And I'm like, oh, my God. So the boots kind of sat right there in the middle of the ring. reminiscent of Taker's gear. At WrestleMania, of course, Taker didn't die though, so this is a little harder to look at. And that's when they take the TNT title. That currently belongs to Darby Allin. And I think it's Tony Khan that did it. Tony Khan takes the TNT title and presents it to Brodie Jr., saying that you are TNT champion for life. And that was the real belt. And they have given him the actual physical belt. He keeps it. It's his forever. And that's a big deal for him, because when Brodie beat Cody for it, he said that when he got home and his kid was sleeping, he tucked the belt in the bed with the kid. So when he woke up, he'd wake up next to the belt. So the fact that they gave him the title, the physical belt itself, I thought was a really nice gesture. And apparently that belt design is retired, not the championship itself, but that belt now belongs to Brodie Jr. They are going to redesign the TNT championship. And I'm actually excited for that. I kind of hope the belt gets a little bit of a new look. I don't want them to just make a new one. I hope it gets like kind of a new look, and that belt will be forever synonymous with, Brodie, and Brodie Lee's kid will always have it. And I'll tell you this, I don't mean this in any disrespectful way at all. I mean this in a very serious, nice way. I will bet you anything. If that kid, in fact, does grow up to get into the wrestling business, and he trains, and he's good enough to be on TV, and he starts getting in angles, we're talking 15 years now or more down the line from now, I guarantee you he will defend that belt on TV at some point. Some asshole heel will goad him into it. It's not uncommon. WWE brought up Reed Flair in Charlotte promos and shit. So if they've done that, I fully expect years later, by the time this kid grows up and the wounds of Brodie's passing are, hopefully healed, his kids are older, maybe even his mom's remarried or something, and he's going to always, he's going to have a legacy of his dad to live up to. He'll get in a situation where on TV, a heel will basically convince him to put that belt on the line, and he will defend it on TV. I'll bet you anything. It's like the FTW title, same thing. Just like it's a belt, it's like the $1 million title. By then, the TNT Championship will have its own legacy, but he'll still have that actual belt, and somebody will convince him to defend it. I bet you anything. I bet you anything. My advice to the kid, though, work hard. If you're serious about being a wrestler, you're only 8 now, so when you become a teenager and this is all still your dream and you want to do it, just work hard. You absolutely have to work hard, because fans, if wrestling fans remain the same in 15 to 20 years from now, they have the same type of just douchebag attitude that they do now, they're going to give this kid a hard time. They're going to give him a hard time because we all love him now, but by then the assholes that, 20 years from now, we're like, oh, they're just giving this because his dad used to wrestle there or something. We're going to hear that. So I want him more than anything else to work hard and be good, have presence, have a size, have a good look, be able to wrestle in the ring to where nobody can give him any shit. Because look at how good Dominic Mysterio is. Kid is a fucking stud. And he hears that shit, because part of it's true, He did get the opportunity because of who his dad is, but he can still wrestle, and he still deserves, to be in matches and stuff. We haven't seen him in a while. He might be off TV for a bit, but somebody like that, and that happens with anybody. Even if you're good, look at how good Charlotte Flair is. But apparently she doesn't get any opportunity. The only reason she gets opportunities is because of her dad. Not that she's awesome in the ring, has a great look, or anything like that, and is really, really good and has really helped single-handedly or almost single-handedly really elevate women's wrestling in general. Nope, it's all because of her dad. That's the mindset these morons have. So we'll see 15 years from now, this kid is probably going to get shit on a lot by the asshole portion of the audience. So he's going to have to be able to back it up. I hope that he just works and trains hard. I'm sure that he's going to have everybody and their mother in the wrestling business helping him out. He can literally have his pick of anybody that he wants to train him. Imagine being in that position, as a kid saying, man, not only can I be a professional wrestler, I can choose my own trainer. I can do anything I want. He can do anything he wants. It's a great position to be in. Unfortunately, an 8-year-old might not appreciate it, but an 18-year-old might. So when he gets older, I just wish him the best. I hope he just kicks ass. I hope we see him continue the legacy of his dad and go by. Like Brian Pillman is Brian Pillman Jr. I want to see Brodie Lee Jr. Or -1. He'll probably will be -1 too in his career. I want to see him have a good career. I'll be, holy shit, I'm already close to 60 years old. I'm going to be in my 60s by the time this kid might make it to TV, but I'm excited to see it, and I wish him the best. So having that announcement that he gets to keep that belt, I thought was very cool. They then closed the show with a really nice video package dedicated to Brodie Lee, We had a lot of pictures, a lot of stuff from WWE, not WWE pictures, but I don't know how this works. I don't know the legalities of this. I know you can't really show footage from WWE, but can you show footage of him in WWE, like pictures of him in WWE, like taken from a fan on Instagram or something? Because you saw there was a picture on the video package on AEW with him and Eric Rowan with the WWE Tag Team titles. There was pictures of Seth Rollins on there, Becky Lynch, Bray Wyatt, lots of WWE guys. I thought that was so cool, just to kind of show his travels and show his journey kind of in a still picture type of presentation. Very moving stuff. And I thought it was great. I mean, and they closed the show with that. And all in all, I think AEW went far and beyond, went above and beyond the Call of Duty here to take care of the family. They went above and beyond making sure the family knows that they're taken care of. They're going to be helped. They announced that shirt that is on sale that has already broken crazy records. That is all the money to that is going to be donated to the family of John Huber. Pro Wrestling Tees is doing the same thing with his store, which is why we gave a couple of T-shirts away on Monday. CM Punk has donated all of his sales for a certain amount of time to John Huber. There's probably going to be GoFundMe's up. And plus, Brodie Lee has been a wrestler in the WWE, in the major leagues for the past 10 years. He has been able to make money. So financially, I'm very happy and I feel good that the family probably will be very well taken care of. And plus the Khans are going to make sure of that as well. So between the money they already have, plus all the donations that are coming in, and plus what AEW is probably going to do for them, they're going to be fine in that regard. So at least that's good, that the kids can grow up and have and be fortunate enough to have a house and education and food on their table, and not have to worry at least about financial stuff. That's probably going to be the case for them. I don't know much about Amanda. I don't know if WWE will do with her what they did with Vicky. They brought Vicky on to be the GM and be in various roles. And I remember a lot of fans being assholes about that too. Well, they only gave her a job out of sympathy for Eddie and stuff. I'm like, what's wrong with that? That's not okay, And Vicky turned out, Vicky evolved greatly when she first appeared on TV when Eddie was still alive. That looked like a completely different woman than who we see now, So she got better and she evolved. I don't know what Amanda wants to do, what she needs to do, but they might have them around sometimes, and I'd be okay with that. And like I said, I mean, shout out to all the AEW talent as well, who just went really out of their way to make Brodie Jr. give him a memorable experience. And like I said, I think he's a bit too young to really fully process what's happening, and he will soon. But the fact that he was given this, this week to have with them and to do all that fun stuff, and everybody, letting him beat him up and pin him, and Kenny Omega let him win the title, before Brodie died. He's been given and gifted the TNT Championship belt. He's beaten everybody in impromptu matches backstage, whacking everybody upside the head with kendo sticks. The entire wrestling community, especially the wrestlers in AEW, have come together and surrounded this kid with like a ring of protection. And they are going to treat him so well and so respectfully every time he's there. They always had time for him. They always, talked to him, had a good time with him. And they just the way they treated him specifically, I thought was really cool. So hats off, good people in AEW all the way around, to the wrestlers and the staff there. I feel very, I guess in some ways it's comforting to know that they are there for the family. Like we don't have to worry about the family, like I said, financially and stuff. Yes, we did our own donation and stuff like that, but it's nice not to have that stress as a fan. Being like, oh my God, I hope she's okay. I hope she's able to pay her bills. I hope these kids are able to grow up and, and have a good life and stuff. And I feel very confident that they will. And that's a good thing. So, again, condolences to Amanda, to little Nolan, Brodie Jr. We love you all. And, they did a really cool, tribute to your dad. And hopefully, we won't have, suffered from too many more bad situations and news like this in 2021, because that was a terrible way to close out 2020, man. My God. But anyway, good job, AEW, on Wednesday night. That was fantastic. Like I said, I didn't, when people want to say, oh, don't talk about the ratings or whatever, I really couldn't really focus my attention on NXT. Read the results, watched a couple of YouTube clips. That was it. We all know what we're looking at going into New Year's Evil, Cross and Priest, and we got O'Reilly and Balor. And who else? Is Io defending the title against Raquel? I forgot. Anyway, it's going to be a good show next week. Next week, we'll be back in business. Next week, we'll be back in action for NXT, and I'm looking forward to New Year's Evil a lot. But this week, I just couldn't give NXT my attention. Didn't have it in me. didn't have it in me. But by the time we got to SmackDown last night, I was kind of ready to get back to business a little bit, and I did watch SmackDown last night. It was okay, but again, not a crazy show by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of the wrestlers did a lot of Brodie Lee tributes. I didn't write them all down, but I know that in Big E's promo, I know he mentioned fans coming. He goes, fans come up to me from Rochester, little Amandas and little Nolans. That was cool. And I know there's been a lot of discus lariats, and there was a Big E did a gator roll in his match. I know that as well. So little, and the armbands, Bailey and a lot of the other talent had Brodie armbands on, which was also very cool. And so there was lots of internal tributes, even though WWE didn't do a whole show like AEW did. The wrestlers took it upon themselves to make sure they tributed their fallen friend. And I thought that was great. We saw that on Monday night as well. Drew McIntyre and Tom Phillips, both with the "It's Monday, you know what that means" line. They did that here on SmackDown a couple of times as well, plus the in-ring tributes, the promo tributes. All that was really good. And like I said, I'm satisfied. To me, it's a pick your battles thing. I am not choosing to be upset with the way WWE handled Brodie Lee's passing. I thought they did fine. 10 bell salutes, collection on the network, beautiful tribute on YouTube, and the talent seemed like they were given free reign to go out on TV and do anything they want in the ring or on the mic to tribute him as well. So that, to me, is sufficient, and to get upset about it is to, you're just hell-bent on getting upset, I guess. So I was fine with it about how they handled that. In terms of the show, no, nothing crazy. A lot of stuff is kind of skippable here, but a couple of funny things. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso open up the show. They're interrupted by Kevin Owens on the stage. He's giving Roman all sorts of shit because, he's standing out there like he's the man, but he's never even really beat him. The only reason he's standing there with the title is because Jey Uso had to pull me off the ladder 75,000 times in the TLC match. Roman doesn't want anything to do with Owens, and Owens is like, that's cool. I don't want anything to do with you either. I want your cousin. So he is demanding a match with Jey Uso. He would get that later on in the night. This is the stupid thing they always do. I hate. Starts out as a match between Big E and Baron Corbin. Sami Zayn is on commentary for this, and Sami gets involved along with Apollo Crews. And of course, it's a big schmaz. You go to commercial, you come back, and we have ourselves an impromptu tag team match. What a surprise. Such a creative idea. Never seen them do that before. And it turned out to be Big E and Apollo taking on Corbin and Sami Zayn. And Big E and Apollo got the win there. Backstage, I think, is when they did the promo where Big E does the Luke Harper reference there. And he also issues an open challenge. He said, next week, I'm going to be a fighting champion, and I'm going to issue an open challenge for my Intercontinental title. And Apollo immediately jumps on it, even kind of takes credit for helping him win in the Lumberjack match and stuff. So Apollo jumped on the opportunity to get a title shot, and that's going to be our match next week. Big E and Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental title. They'd make a good-looking modern-day Doom, wouldn't they? Neither one of them are mean enough. Ron and Butch are just savages. Big E and Apollo are very fun-loving and very, very bright, happy, and smiley. If they changed up their shit a little bit, they could pull it off, man. It could be like a new Doom. I think it's time. Like I know like the new Diesel and shit and Razor Ramon didn't work out, but I'm such an old school guy. I wouldn't be that like against the idea of like a resurrection of a tag team name. Like right, they're doing the Varsity Blondes in AEW. Something like that. I think they've done it once or twice. We've done the new Blackjacks and shit, but if like you could have like a callback to like an old team, I think it would be kind of cool, just for old school fans or something. But anyway, after that we had the Riot Squad taking on Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan taking on Tamina and Natalya. Now Billie Kay has been one of my favorite parts of SmackDown lately for some reason. She's actually really now trying to become a manager, and honestly, like I said, WWE follows through with nothing. She's trained to be a wrestler, so if she's going to be a manager, it's not like she's going to be a manager for the rest of her life, but I think it could be a role that would suit her. She reminds me of like, I can't say crazy because this person's already crazy. Imagine, imagine what's a drug? What's an illegal drug that makes you really happy? Can't even think of one. Think of Sensational Sherry, like on a mood elevator. Billie Kay has that to her. She's loud, super fucking loud, and extremely animated on the outside of the ring, going all over the place. You can't not notice her, And Sherry was a lot like that. She would be making laps. Sherry didn't stay on one apron or in one corner. She was all over that ring. Go back and watch the matches she managed, whether it be DiBiase or Savage or whoever. She is all doing laps around that fucking ring, going nuts. Billie Kay is a lot like that, and she's hysterical. I mean, yes, her voice is nails on the chalkboard, but that's kind of the point. I certainly wouldn't want her as my Uber driver, but on TV, having her singer run around there acting all crazy, showing her resume to people, trying to become a manager, that might actually be something that works with her, because so far, splitting up the Iconics has seemed completely pointless. What the hell they do it for, especially now that Peyton seems to have another partner. You're going to do the same thing with Billie Kay, put her on another show with another partner. Why the fuck break them up to begin with for then? So if they're going to do something different here with Billie and make her into a manager for a short time, maybe managing the Riot Squad, because she did offer some advice. I think she was initially kind of trying to back up Tamina and Natty. Isn't that how that went? And then she was up on the steps during the match making a big stink, and that allowed, I think, Liv to roll up Tamina and get the victory, and then Billie seemed to be happy about that. This is what happens when you watch the Cliffs Notes version of SmackDown. So if Billie Kay wound up managing the Riot Squad, good mic work, ain't against it at all. I think that'd be pretty hilarious. Could not watch it, completely skipped it. Street Profits are out there playing the drums and then attacked by Rude and Ziggler, right? Sorry, I can't today. Well, I don't know what that was. It looks stupid, and I didn't watch it. Daniel Bryan and Otis defeated Cesaro and Nakamura. Cool to see Daniel Bryan and Nakamura in the ring, but, you know, I don't know, Otis. And what's the deal? Or is there still any sort of outside chance that Daniel Bryan could actually maybe win the Royal Rumble, get a title shot at the Royal Rumble, get a title shot at WrestleMania? Is that in the cards for him, or is that ship sailed? What do you guys think? There has been some rumblings and some talk that, you know, he could be in the Rumble and he could be in line for one final run here before he, you know, really kind of starts wrapping up his career. He's been back now for a couple of years, seems healthy. They could essentially do it. I would love it. I think based on what we saw here in the main event segment, I think they're going to hold Kevin Owens off TV for a couple of weeks and bring him back to set up the Royal Rumble match with Roman Reigns. But you could throw Bryan into that mix as well, make it a triple threat, or put Bryan in the Rumble. That's one thing I mean, what a great way to start off 2021, you know, in terms of wrestling, because if there's one of the fans, all of our biggest regrets, I think, is the Daniel Bryan situation in the Royal Rumbles for a couple of straight years. You know, first it was Batista winning in 2014, you know, which really pissed everybody off. And especially when Daniel Bryan was building all that momentum. And then I think it even happened the next year. Didn't 2015 we had a big problem too, right? When Daniel Bryan didn't appear in the Rumble or something, or whatever the hell happened there. So there's been a lot of regrets. What the hell happened in 2015? Oh yeah, Roman. Roman won the Rumble in 2015. So that was 2 years in a row there where a lot of people were very disappointed, and a lot of that disappointment was due to how much the fans wanted Daniel Bryan. And they have a chance to fix that now. Daniel Bryan would be a really fun Royal Rumble winner. Now that Big E is the Intercontinental Champion, to me, it seems a bit unrealistic for him to win the Royal Rumble. Doesn't mean he can't. It just doesn't feel like that's going to happen to me. So I need to start exploring other options. And I think Daniel Bryan might be one of the most fun options we have out there. You know, and if they do that, who does that put him in the ring with, though? It's going to be Roman, you know, Roman and Bryan. Again, we've seen that match a lot of times. Roman comes out on top every time. Not sure, based on Roman's character, who he is, if I can really see Daniel Bryan beating a Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania. Don't know if I can envision that. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, that I've been saying all along that Roman should hold the belt until WrestleMania, but that does not necessarily mean he drops it there. I think a lot of people assume he will. I kind of do too at the moment. But him and Drew are both going to go into the show as champions, and I'm not sure if both of them are going to drop their belts. So one of them probably will. The other one will keep it. And Roman might be able to, like I say, take on the role that Brock had, you know, and if you do that, you run the risk of then the fans turning, because right now fans are loving his heel work, but you know, they, even when it's good, they turn on it. It's just the way they are. So if Roman holds the belt for what the fans consider to be too long, boy, they would have hated the 80s and 70s when guys were champs for 7 and 8 years and shit. But if 8 months is just too much for the fans to handle, well, he's holding the belt forever, then they might get mad if he retains. But I'd be okay with it, just like Brock retained against him at 34. We all thought that was going to be it for Brock. Roman was going to finally get that win, and he fucking lost, man. So I'd like to see maybe Roman retain at WrestleMania. I'd be into that. So, but at the same time, seeing Daniel Bryan get back to the top, because after that great moment at WrestleMania 30, him finally winning, WWE actually changing their plans and listened to the fans for once in their stupid lives and actually gave Bryan the belts. And then he got injured, and the whole thing never got off the ground. So maybe he's got one final last breath, one chance here to, you know, make it work. I'd be into it. I'd love to see Daniel Bryan winning the title at WrestleMania again. That would be amazing, especially 7 years after the fact. Would be pretty cool. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm with you, Mr. E. I think Roman and Owens last man standing is all there's left to do. You know, because they already did Hell in a Cell and they did Hell in a Cell and I Quit in one match with Jey Uso. Then it was a TLC match with Owens, and then it was something else. So there's almost no real stipulations you could do to blow off a feud that's got this much, intensity to it, other than a potential last man standing match. And here's an idea I have for the last. Well, I'm going to save that for a minute. About the last man standing match in a minute. When I start talking about that, because I got an idea for that. Let me finish up these last two matches first. Then we're going to get into the Kevin Owens and Jey Uso match. And that's where I'll talk about my idea for the last man standing. After Daniel Bryan and Otis beat Cesaro and Nakamura, Carmella and Bayley teamed up to defeat Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Carmella pinned Sasha using her, it's almost like an X-Factor looking finisher. I don't know what she calls that. Didn't look horrible. She pinned Sasha Banks, though, who is the champion, but it did require some interference from Reginald, or sommelier, who cooks champagne for her. So I saw people bitching, oh, Sasha Banks was pinned. Who fucking cares? I don't care. It was interference, not a big a deal, and I don't know. So it looks like that issue isn't over. And Bayley and Bianca have got their thing. And I don't know, what are we going to get, a 4-way or something at the Rumble? Or I hope not. I want Bianca to win the Rumble. I want Bianca to win the Rumble and Rhea Ripley to win the Chamber. Those are my two picks. Main event was Kevin Owens, of course, taking on Jey Uso. He really wants revenge on Jey Uso. He beats the shit out of him in the match and says that after the match he's going to continue to beat him up, and that's exactly what he did. He hits Jey with a stunner, gets a 3-count victory, and then continues to whoop his ass, brings him all through the Thunderdome. So he's in the fans there. The fans are getting a real up-close look at Kevin Owens and Jey Uso as they're brawling through there. They're up on like a little platform, and that's when Roman Reigns comes out to make the save and helps out Jey Uso finally after Owens was working him over pretty good. The two of them double team Owens, beat the crap out of him, and the show ends with Roman throwing Owens off the platform, and he took a pretty sick table bump. That didn't look like it was gimmicked at all. He went off the platform, and it was basically right onto the ground, through the tables, onto the concrete. No crash pad, no bullshit. That was a gnar slam right there, so hopefully he's okay. WWE reports that he's been taken to a medical facility, of course. So that made me think that potentially he is going to be off TV for a week or so, because we have a long time until we get to the Royal Rumble. So if you're going to book another match between Owens and Roman, you've already had a lot of weeks of build. You've already had several. How many Kevin Owens and Jey Uso matches have we had? 3-ish? 2? It's got to be at least 2, and I think it might even be 3 since this whole issue started. You can only do that so many times. You got 5 more Smackdowns before Royal Rumble. Maybe this is an injury to keep him off TV at least for 1 week, just to give them a breather here before they pick shit back up. So I'm guessing that's the deal there. He'll come back. He'll offend because he went through the table and he was left laying. It's all setting up the last man standing thing. So if they do a last man standing match at the Royal Rumble, I think that's the right thing to do, because I don't think you can do everything you did with these guys and have a regular match. You can't just do one-on-one. That's not going to work. There's been too much shit going on. So you got to have a stip, and you've already done a lot of stips with Roman, Hell in the Cell, TLC, last man standing in the last 11 weeks alone. You're running out of stips. So I think the best one to do would be the last man standing, and then Roman can finally win and retain and end it. Now, another stipulation I might like to see them do, I either thought this in my head or we talked about it last week, but if they also did something, because another big theme here is that Jey Uso has been very instrumental in all of Roman's victories. He's been helping out a lot. Like Kevin Owens said, he had to drag him off the ladder like 75 times in one match, and that's the only reason why Kevin doesn't have that blue belt on his shoulder instead of Roman. So I had this idea in my head. I think it would be really good. Let me know what you think. So what if they did a stipulation, no last man standing, but they did a stipulation instead where it's just a match, but if Jey Uso interferes, Roman Reigns loses the title. Or make it specific. Don't say if Roman Reigns gets disqualified, he loses the title. Make it specifically for Jey. And say if Jey interferes, Roman Reigns loses the championship. So you do the match, you start having Kevin Owens get the advantage, you get to the finish, and you have Jey Uso then run into the ring, attack Kevin Owens, referee calls for the bell, awards the match to Kevin Owens, do the announcement, and new Universal Champion play his music, let him celebrate up the stage on the ramp, holding up the belt while the fans are cheering, and then Jey takes off his hat and his bandana to reveal that it's Jimmy, not Jey. And the rules specifically state that if Jey interferes, Roman loses the belt. But that ain't Jey. That's Jimmy. He's got to be healthy by now, right? Then, you talk about heat, then the referee restarts. He doesn't reverse the decision, but he restarts the match because it wasn't Jey who interfered. So Kevin Owens can't win the title. It's not the rules. So they do a restart, and then Kevin Owens gets speared. Roman wins the title. Imagine the fan. What was the match with Seth Rollins? It was the match where he did the cross-eyed thing. Remember? He was champ. It was 2015. Fuck, I forgot what it was. And he basically lost the title, I think, and they announced it and everything, and then it was reversed and something weird happened, and he wound up retaining the title via DQ or something weird like that, and he's celebrating on the outside of the ring. I think that's when Jamie Noble and what's-his-face were still with him in Mercury, and he does the cross-eyed thing, and whatever that was, help me out. I see a scenario like that where Roman can then beat Kevin Owens. The whole entire audience, well, shit, that's not going to work. There is no audience. But the audience at home, anyway, thinks that Owens has won the title. This would be much better with a crowd and attendance because the reactions here would just be fantastic. But I think that would be a good way to like swerve everybody and a good way for Roman to get yet another one over on Owens. And it still builds Owens up as this never say die type of guy, because at some point he's going to have to lose here and go on to do something else, and Roman's going to carry the belt into WrestleMania. But he might come out on the other side of this, much like Austin did at WrestleMania 13, where even in all these losses, he looked like a much tougher competitor, and he looked like somebody who's, on the verge of breaking out into superstardom kind of thing. So you could accomplish all that with a stip like that. Although the one flaw in that is when I say make the stipulation specific to Jey, it would make more sense. People would automatically say like, well, why isn't it just no disqualification? Because maybe people will see the Jimmy thing coming. But that could also be something you could do at the last minute. You could make that stip on the pre-show of the Royal Rumble. Wait the whole time, and then on the pre-show, Owens mentioned something or whatever, and hey, this just in, Adam Pearce has ruled that if Jey Uso interferes, then Roman will lose the title. If you add the stipulation that late, maybe it won't get fans to think of this idea or not. But if you do it right away and you have 2 weeks of build, people might be able to figure this out. So that I think would be a fun way to do it. If not, the last man standing match is perfect because, again, you can have a victory there without Owens really taking any sort of hard or clean pin, because he is going to have a lot of interference. But, based on what's been going on TV with Owens and Roman, if they do a last man standing match, Owens' character is going to have something to say about that. Well, a last man standing match, that's horseshit. A last man standing match is also no disqualification, which means Roman can bring out his whole goddamn family out there, to help him out if he wants. And Kevin Owens, we've seen, has no friends. Owens' character, I think, would object to that match. But they've already done a cage too. It's another match they've already done. So there's not much left they can do. So I think a stip like that, adding a stipulation about Jey Uso, or maybe Jey Uso is banned from ringside. That would be another one. That's the way to do it. Don't do the disqualification thing. Just ban him. Ban Jey Uso from ringside. If he interferes, Roman loses the title. Then when Jimmy interferes and they think it's Jey, you can still do the whole title switch thing, and then he reveals it's really Jimmy. Jey really did, he abided by the rules. Match has to be restarted, and Roman wins. That's good. I think that would work, and that would be fun. And like I said, if there was a crowd in the arena, the heat. You get some shit thrown in the ring. That'd be great. I think something like that would work really well. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. That's pretty much your Smackdown in a nutshell. Boy, we've been streaming for about 2 hours, so I got to go ahead and get out of here in a minute. But I do want to mention really quickly WWE Raw for this week. Of course, we have the Legends Raw. We don't know what the Legends are going to be doing yet. All we know is they are there. Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and others. And we've got one big matchup on the line, or one big matchup advertised. Excuse me. And that, of course, is Drew McIntyre defending the WWE title against Keith Lee. Lee earned that shot last week. And what are you going to get here? Heel turn. It's going to be disqualified. Drew's not dropping this belt to him, but maybe Keith Lee goes heel. That's possible. or maybe we get some Sheamus interference there, or maybe they set up some sort of a fatal 4-way at the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't be surprised if Sheamus, Keith Lee, McIntyre, and who else has been involved in that? AJ maybe? Some sort of 4-way there or something. Feels like we might get what we might get at the Rumble. Either way, I'm not expecting Lee to be walking out with WWE Gold on Monday. And that's it. And all it says on WWE.com here, it says what's next for Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss. So they'll be going at it some more. I'm hoping that's where we see The Fiend. If they are going to bring back The Fiend with a new look, I think the first Raw of the year is a pretty good Raw to do that on. If not, they'll probably wait till a little bit closer until the Royal Rumble. But it definitely does look like we have got a Firefly Funhouse match in the works between these two guys. And I suppose that's going to take place probably at the Royal Rumble, which should be fun. And also, we've got Wrestle Kingdom kicking off 2-night event. Starts for me. Now, I'm on the West Coast. I don't know where you guys live, so you're going to have to look up. Dropping my fucking thing. You're going to have to look up where it is for you. For me, it's pretty manageable because I live on the West Coast. So for me, it starts at midnight. So midnight tomorrow night, like Sunday night at midnight, night 1 will start. And then we'll watch Raw on Monday. And then 4 hours for me, Raw ends at 8 o'clock. I'll do the stream on Monday. And then a couple hours later at midnight again, night number 2 will come out. So if you're on the East Coast, I believe that'll be 3 a.m. That's going to be tough to stay up to watch that. There's some really good matches on this card too. I'm really excited to see the Will Ospreay and Okada match. And I think that this is going to be it for Kota Ibushi. I think, he won the G1, of course. And I think he came up short last time. He had this opportunity. This time, I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to walk out of both nights as the double champion. He'll face Naito on night 1. But then I think he'll wind up retaining on night 2 as well. So I feel confident that Kota's going to walk out of there with all the titles. Some of these matches look really fun. We got a big New Japan Rumble, and we got all this shit coming on, going on up there. We got the U.S. title briefcase with Kenta and Kojima. All sorts of really cool matches on here that I want to see. Hopefully I can stay awake for both nights, but I'm hoping it's really going to be about Kota Ibushi. What did he win? Mr. Japan, Mr. Universe Japan or something, 2020. He's like, I can't believe he's 38 years old. He looks like he's 24. And he looks like he's 24. Somebody's been in the gym since he's 10 and he's 24 years old. I cannot believe he's as old as he is. Tanahashi too. Tanahashi's in really good shape, but he's a little up there too. But Ibushi he works so crazy good. I hope he survives. Every time I watch a Kota Ibushi match, my neck hurts. So I hope he's careful. But I hope it's also what we come to expect from him in matches and stuff. And I think he's going to be pretty dominant. I think he's going to beat Naito for the titles. So that'll be fun. The next couple of nights, it's going to be a big 72 hours. Sunday night, Monday night, twice. Monday night for Raw and night 2. So I'll be following along on New Japan World. This year marks, I guess, my 3rd anniversary. Whatever match Jericho and Omega fought on, that's when I subscribed to New Japan World on January 4th for Wrestle Kingdom. I guess that's Wrestle Kingdom 12. So I've had it ever since. It's the anniversary day for us. But yeah, should be good. Should be a fun week. So make sure, like I said, if you're not following me on social media, please make sure you do that because I should have lots of things to say on Twitter over the next 4 days with all this wrestling that we got going on. But anyway, that's all I got for my notes. I'm going to scroll up here, knock out the super chats that I missed while I was babbling, and then get out of here because I've been streaming for exactly 2 hours. And I thought this would be an hour and a half long stream, not 2. So went longer than I thought. Okay, yeah, so thank you for that, Devil. And so he wasn't, I wasn't sure if it was official face yet or not. But I remember the stuff 3 weeks back with the Death Triangle, yeah. So Lance Archer did turn face a few weeks ago, saved Death Triangle from Kingston and Butcher and Blade. I know, I just still wasn't sure if it was like completely done. But I guess it is. And he's, and based on, you're probably right though, Devlin, because based on the way he was working on Wednesday, he was working babyface, the fucking moonsault and shit. So yeah, he's a good guy. I liked him, Lance Archer. I used to not like him. I remember when he first came in, he was Vance Archer in WWE, and then he was in TNA at a time. I remember I reviewed one of their pay-per-views, and Lance Hoyt had a match on there, and I remember commenting on the review that he looked like shit. I mean, he looked like green as hell, and I don't know what he was doing. So never liked him up until like he got older and he got into Japan and stuff, and now that he's 43, I believe, he's the most impressive he's ever been. Thank you for the $3, Deshaun. I appreciated that. I popped hard when MJF got cracked with the kendo stick. Yeah, he needed to, man. If he would have gotten out of that match without getting any comeuppance, then I might have had a problem, because I'm like, he's ripping the mask off of this kid and yelling at him, flipping him off, 48 hours after his after his dad died, man. What the fuck? So yeah, he got what coming to him. I was happy. I popped for that too. Tiger Zilla Gamer, thanks for the $2. Unpopular opinion. I think Lee will beat Drew. That's not really an unpopular opinion. That's just an unpopular prediction. And you might be right. And if he did, I have no problem with it. That title's going to be passed around a lot, though, if they did that. You know, to take it off of Drew, to put it on Orton, to put it back on Drew, to put it on Lee. That's like taking the long way. They could have simplified that, I think, if that's what they want to do. But if they do put it on Lee, I think Lee's got to go heel or something. You know, he's missing something. It's not his fault. It's WWE's fault completely because he wasn't missing anything in NXT. He started missing something when he got here, and they started working with him. So maybe a heel turn for him would be best. And if he turned heel and swerved everybody and it was a shock and he cheated to win or whatever, then that could make some sense. But I still think Sheamus is going to get involved somehow, and it's going to wind up just leading to whatever they do at the Rumble. Like that will be set up on Monday. And like I said, it could be like a fatal 4-way or a triple threat, I think, at the Royal Rumble. Decimation Jones, they're making Roman look too weak at times. Owens kicked out of the spear. I didn't like that. I don't mind spear kickouts, and I don't mind Roman Reigns having to fight for his victories. I was a little bit misunderstood, too, when he started aligning himself with Paul Heyman. I was thinking we were going to see a character a little bit more like Brock, a little bit more dominant, who doesn't seem to get hurt very often. But Roman does. Like, Roman gives a lot. He gave a lot to Jey Uso in those matches. I remember prior to the Clash of Champions match, I thought it was going to be a squash. I thought he was going to go in there and bloody and rip the face off of his own cousin, you know, in 48 seconds, and that was going to be the end of it. But instead, Jey took him to the limit. Then he took him to the limit again. And now Owens has been taking him to the limit. So I don't really mind this. I don't need to see, you know, I think a lot of problem with Brock was the fact that he was so dominant. The fact that Roman Reigns is having to work for these matches now, just like he did when he was a babyface. You know, he was all over the place, you know, and fighting hard and stuff. So I thought his style was going to slow down and be a little bit more methodical, and it has slightly, but he's still that same Roman. He can still do those same moves, and he can still, you know, get himself beat up a lot. So I'm not really against that, though. I thought it would be different. I'm kind of with you on that. I didn't think Roman would, you know, give this much the offense to his opponents. I thought he'd be a little bit more like Brock, but now that we're rolling into it, I'm actually okay with it. I thought it made for a really fun cage match the other week with Kevin Owens on Christmas night, that type of style. So I'm okay with that, but I think I see what you mean. And with people kicking out of the spear, I'm fine with that too. That stuff doesn't bother me too much with the kickouts. But because the spear is not like, you know, the spear is not that protected of a move. Lots of guys have done spears in the past, and a lot of spears get kicked out of. So I don't think it's that weird, but I see what you're saying, though. Totally. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. It was a fun Winged Eagle podcast. I appreciate you guys being here today. I'm going to be rolling out of here in a minute. Yeah, domination. I'm rooting hard for Kota Ibushi this weekend. I'm really hoping this is it for him. It has to be. You know, last year was Naito's year. This year has got to be his, especially after all this time. You know, I thought he'd have this title belt already before now, like way before now. So the fact that it's taken this long is good, and we'll see. We've got lots of other nonsense on here, you know, the Empire stuff and the Bullet Club stuff, so it should be good. Let me see. Where's the other note? Oh, I guess I lost it. Oh, no, I put it up here. Never mind. We talked about everything. I thought there was one more piece of business I needed to discuss, but I don't think there is. I think we're finished, finally. Yes. Anyway, thanks for hanging out today, guys. I appreciate it. We had a pretty decent audience in the chat today, too, which is fun. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button. If you've not yet already, give this channel a like and some help. I would appreciate it. And don't forget to join us Monday night right after Raw. We'll see. It could be one of the dumbest Legends Raws of all time, or it could be a fun one. We'll see if we get a new champion. We'll see if we get the return of The Fiend, and we'll see what kind of trouble these legends get into, if it's something that's a complete waste of time, or if it's something that can actually be utilized nice in the right way. Like I said, I would love for The Fiend to attack IRS. Other than that, a Hogan and Flair, you know, nostalgia promo was fine. A couple of other legends humiliating The Miz and Morrison. Maybe Carlito spitting the apple in somebody's face. That's all I really need, to be honest with you. And if this is WWE's idea of really upping their ratings game, I think they're going to be in for a disappointment. Tigerzilla game, appreciate the $2 on the way out. Favorite Okada versus Omega match? The one that I watched, but I don't remember which one it was. Oh, I think it was the one when Omega won. That one was pretty good, when Omega won the title. And Martin Can, thank you as well for the $3 prediction for the Orton Alexa cliffhanger. I think it's the Fiend, man. I think it's got to be the Fiend. Alexa tried to get herself burnt up. She already did all she could last week. Hey, just, here's some gasoline, light me on fire. So I think it's got to be the Fiend coming back. I kind of hope we see him tomorrow. Some fans might think that's too soon, especially if there's a repackage, but I don't. I'm ready. Just bring him. Let's do it. Oh, yeah, Barry, that was one thing that did not make it in my notes. We all would like to wish Mick Foley a speedy recovery. He has tested positive for COVID-19. He's been quarantining in a hotel room, I think, for the past, 3 weeks. And he's, the last guy you want to hear about getting this. So get well, Mick Foley. We all love you. And we will all be thinking about you. You're in our thoughts. Yes, Barry, I saw the Mick Foley stuff. I did. Yeah. He'll be fine. If he survived a cage fall, he can survive COVID. He'll be all right. All right, guys. Thanks again, man. I'm getting out of here. You guys take care. Have a good rest of your night and weekend, and I will catch you Monday night after Raw.